See. Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025, and the time is 6:07 p.m. I now call this meeting of the Urban Design Commission to order. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Urban Design Commission is conducted via remote participation. We will make recordings available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. My name is Estella Reganet, and I will be chairing tonight's meeting, and we will start with a roll call of the commission members present. Frank Valdez,
Present.
Andrew Arbaugh,
Here.
Tim Talon,
Here.
and Martin Pavlinich.
Here.
Deborah Fennick, she is absent. And so with 4 members present, we do have quorum. And so the first item on the agenda are um, a review of the design recommendations for 32 to 40 White Street. This is Kit's project, and again, just as a reminder, there is no motion required for this item, just to state that the UDC needs to review the written recommendations once completed by the case planner. And if there are no concerns, we can move to the design reviews. And any questions or comments about 32 to 40 White Street? I'm seeing shaking heads.
Hey, Estella, could you do a roll call vote to approve the recommendation?
I thought that we don't need to do a motion for this, Lexi. Is this the one?
I think we still have to do a roll call vote.
Sure. Okay. We will do a roll call vote to approve the design recommendations. Thank you, Lexi. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
and Frank Valdez.
Yes.
Great. And so with 4 votes, this motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the design review for 205 Broadway, and the case planner here is Kit. This is an MR5 apartment general building, and we will, at the end of the presentation, vote on facade, design guidelines, and any additional design guidance. And Lexi, if you're able to get the
This is Kit.
part.
Could you promote Anne Figueredo and Will Chalfant, please?
Yep, I see
Yeah.
Anne is here already.
Good evening. I believe Will should be made a panelist as well.
Yep, I see that as well. Great. And this is a reminder that you both have 20 minutes to present, and then it will be followed up with questions and comments before the roll call votes. But if you are able to, feel free to share screen and present.
Sharing is not turned on.
Oh.
So if you can turn that on for me.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Can everyone see that? Yep.
Yes, we
Thank
can.
you. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, name for the record is Will Chalfant from Calsa Design. We're the architects on this project. We were last here, I believe, March. I'm not sure. I think we missed a meeting on the last round, but just to refresh everyone's memory of the lot, this is the vacant property in the corner of McGrath and Broadway. I believe at one point it was a service station. It's long since been a dirt pile with a billboard on it. So redevelopment here is obviously an improvement over what's going on. So At the last meeting, there were a lot of plan-wise, nothing has really changed. We are revising some of the landscape plans. I didn't mean to skip past that. Some of the landscape plans there was a comment from Mr. Arbaugh about adding a little bit more planting width on the drive aisle side over here. We do have a building overhang, but I spoke with the landscape architect. He thinks he can get some more robust plants in there to at least address that comment. But mostly it was about the exterior. I think the initial design was the preferred approach. We've just done some refinements to it. And I want to apologize in advance for the bright blue colored windows and glass. We had a real fit with our software on this for some reason. I don't know what it is. We've resolved it since, but when this was submitted, we were going through it. So please ignore the bright blue glass if you could. But the major changes here are an identification, more refined identification of materials. So we've chosen the brick that we're proposing to use, as well as the main body, the gray mass on the side of the building is a sembrite. We then have infill of another color of sembrite, and then these larger shadow boxes. And then the upper floor is treated in a pack clad product and a Lucabond product. And then we have some sunshades as well and glass railings, which we've called out. But just getting into the design changes, predominantly, we looked at that main corner. I think the previous iteration was a little too commercial in its aesthetics, specifically the windows on the upper floors 2, 3, and 4, which fall in that gray mass. They were very large. So we've shrunk those windows down to give a little bit more of residential scale. And by doing that, it allowed us to further develop that facade, a little more detailing with the addition of these shadow boxes and then a different color material within those shadow boxes in addition to the window. Then we brought that brick on the corner element, brought that all the way up. It was previously just to the first floor, and we had an infill of panel on that corner. We thought the brick it actually worked better, tied the building together, sort of had these flanking wings when you look at it straight on. And then we've also revised the sunshades up on that top level. We've pulled them in a little bit. They were a little more prominent. We've shrunk them in size. They're still efficient in what they're meant to do. But we've kind of made that less of a focal point. The main entry canopy, we've changed how that is articulated along the ground level. We've kept the residential entry points, those canopies at a lower level, and then the commercial canopy is at a higher level on that corner, giving a little more hierarchy to that ground floor level. And then we've added the previous brick pilasters sort of just died into the sidewalk. We've added a concrete base there, some curbing, just to make that transition a little cleaner. There was some comments about column alignment with the columns or the vertical elements on the upper floors. We've tried to align those as best as possible. We did run into an issue on the 2 side elevations where for MR5, there are zoning requirements for minimum extent of storefront. And so without violating zoning, we were sort of forced with the size that we have here. But we can discuss that in detail a little bit further on. And so again, just the materials being identified, and then we did provide some updated renderings showing this contextually at that intersection. And I think we can stop there and I'll defer to the board.
Great. Any comments from the committee?
Will, could you just walk us through again the materials?
Sure. So, sorry, my screen just went black there. Sure. So a full bed brick at the base, and then this corner element. The gray areas is a sembrite, which is a cementitious product. It's more robust. It's a rain screen system as opposed to like a hardy. which I guess is technically a rain screen, but we don't really want to treat it as one. So that's a separate product. And then we have some composite, we have a few canopies and pre-made window boxes that we found a manufacturer for those, which were identified on the material sheet. I can go back to that if you'd like.
Yeah. Just a question about the Sembret. Is that so? That's a fiber cement, kind of like a Swiss Pearl or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly like Swiss
And
Pearl.
so is that a through body color?
It is a through body too.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then wrapping around the corner, the curved portion of the building, that's all through body brick. So that'll be laid up brick around the radius.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
With the same developer, we did a curve up the road, so we know we can do it.
Great. And then just again at the top, I guess that's a metal panel canopy and kind of cladding the top of the building. You're planning on actually radiusing, curving the metal panels. They're not
Yeah.
going to be segmented.
Yep. No, we actually found a manufacturer that these are pre-made. Well, it's a custom radii, but that's not an uncommon look for them. We reached out to them and they provided some drawings for it that it is doable. And the idea is for that color to sort of jive with the new shadow boxes around the residential floor windows.
No, I think it's nice. I think it's nice on the corner, on especially on the upper stories. But it would be unfortunate if it turned into a segmented curve. So I think actually curving, like providing a real radius on those panels is important.
Yep, agreed.
Another comment. I don't quite understand how the required glazing percentage at the bays would impact the ability to align piers. E- Especially in this view, kind of looking at that corner, there's a pier expression on floors 2 to 4 that doesn't align with the pier at the ground level. And I presume that's a real column there.
Yep.
So is there a reason those don't align?
And there's some fun. I mean, I don't have the zoning section in front of me. There is I can go to it. I can find it and have it ready and subsequently provide it. But there was something to do with, I think, program wise where our spaces were as well in order to get our minimums for certain elements. We couldn't get it to quite work, especially with the intent of this being modular up above. But we can. I think what we were trying to avoid was having a lot of columns directly behind pieces of glass, because I know we can't use spandrel panels, I believe, at the ground level. So, or infill, rather, it has to be transparent. So we can take another look at it and see what we can do. It may be a matter of just shifting some structural posts around, but it was deemed to be a bit of a hassle.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something. I mean, presumably there's a column running all the way up and down here
Correct.
behind the pier that it's going to be behind glass either on the upper stories or on the ground story.
Well, actually, the upper floors, those will be independent boxes. That corner is a little bit different, but the majority of this will be modular boxes
got it.
placed
Okay.
on a podium.
Okay.
We did align them here as, somewhat. I think it's important to know that middle mass, that gray, is outbound slightly from the base. So I think it's throwing things slightly, and maybe how it's perceived, but we can certainly look at adjusting those further.
I don't have any comments.
Will, can you go back to the side view? Yep, there. Is there a possibility to the left side of the building cantilevering out like that? Seems kind of unusual almost, if you will. Is there a possibility of bringing that corner down, just that one corner as a column down? So whether the color comes down as a in the column down so that you bring that piece down. I don't know what the width. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because that's falling right
It's
here.
falling right there, right? So it's seeing, yeah, and kind of like to bring part of the building down in that way.
Sorry, I don't mean to be jumping around.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that sort of solidifying that corner, making it a little more permanent, sort of floating. I think the
So
column thinness is a little off-putting in this view.
it is, and it almost to create almost like an entryway, so it seems like the building is coming down and hitting the ground.
Yeah, we could actually, I
Or
think
whether that's brick, or whether that's brick, or whether that's the white. I mean, something I think that needs to like ground the building in that corner.
we could basically carry the width of that gray panel to the left of the window straight down, I think, without
Okay.
having a problem. This is the exit only, so we don't want to draw too much
Okay. Yeah.
interest level to it. But I hear you. I think that's actually a nice comment on that side.
Is there a
If
similar
you,
position on the Broadway side?
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say if there's because when we were looking at it from the Broadway side, I had a similar thought that there was a bit of a cantilever to it that might have been.
Oh yeah, let me go to the elevation for that. Well,
yeah, there is.
perspective. Yeah,
Well,
so
particularly the view that's kind of middle right, it has a very yeah, there's a sort of teetering looming element to it that I'm wondering, yeah, that but in the bottom right um
yeah,
view, you could see that you could do a similar sort of thing there. I don't know if that interrupts the road at all, like the driveway at
that's
all, but
the issue in that location.
got it.
So we could, I think it'd be short of doing like an outrigger and then posting down.
No,
Of
no,
course, yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
outrigger.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it. So
If you squint, it looks a little weird.
But yeah, agree with
yeah,
Frank that the other side, the McGrath side, or yeah, the other side is has more of an opportunity for a kind of grounding there.
we could possibly create some sort of signal notifier or something, just a bit, just to sort of, close that corner off a little bit on the McGrath's on the Broadway side rather. But I'm not sure you're going to experience it quite like we're looking at it in this view as much as maybe
It's
sitting at the light.
yeah, it's a smaller width.
It's right there right here. It's not as
Yeah.
that the perspective was really not doing it much help.
Your elevations do a better job
Right.
about talking about that, so it's a smaller view.
Yeah, agreed.
Just
From this view, the front elevation does look, yeah, that looks makes more sense. It was just when Frank was talking about the left elevation that I was
yeah,
bringing
the
that
bigger one just
initially
like
there.
looks like okay.
Yeah, I think perhaps it's a consistent cladding for all the columns, not just the one facing out on McGrath, but that helps ground the building.
I mean, that's a easily a 25 foot width, right? Bay on that column.
Uh,
It's a yeah, it's a two. It's a
yeah.
living room and a bedroom. It's a living room
Yeah.
and a bedroom. Yeah, you're about 25 feet.
Yep.
So is what's shown here just the raw steel column, fireproof column?
Um, I think, yeah, I don't think we put much ornamentation. Well, clearly we didn't put a lot of ornamentation into it.
Yeah.
But
So I
we
think
could,
cladding those columns either with brick, similar to the piers on the rest of the building, or
yeah, I think brick makes sense because it would be a continuation of the base.
yeah.
It would look nice.
Yeah, I think the brick would be a nicer kind of consistency than the gray reaching down, but I think either could potentially work.
Great. Any other comments before? It sounds like we're Ready to move to votes?
Are there any street trees proposed as part of this?
Mass DOT streets, we can't propose those.
I've done trees on Mass DOT streets.
We have not had luck on McGrath on 4 instances. Flat out won't let us do it. I'd love to.
PSF and Astello can definitely follow up on that when it gets a little further along.
Yeah, I mean, look, we want them. It only helps us. We'd love street trees. We didn't want to use them to count towards our green score for one thing, so we didn't want to make that assumption. So I think if we could something we can add, it's a bonus.
Yeah, they don't really bonus anything on the score, but they have been proposed on projects farther down on Broadway, closer to Assembly.
Yeah, McGrath is the side I was more focused on. Sorry.
Yeah. Just one more comment from me. The doors into the transformer vault, it looked like those were glass on the elevation.
They should be graded. It's this metal, be like a perforated door.
It's an alcove.
Yes.
Okay, but I mean this door here. That's the door into the vault, right?
No, that is a door into the. No, you are correct, sir. That is what that's being shown. That'll go away. It'll be a grilled door like on this side.
Okay.
Okay, do we want to move
I think
along?
we did that maybe to meet our fenestration requirements. I'm sorry, now that I'm just thinking that through. But we can't do that, so.
Yeah, so the votes for this design review will include facade design guidelines and additional design guidance. It sounds like we're ready to vote if the commission is ready to pass a motion on a vote for the facade, for approval of the facade.
I would like to add on that there would be a condition that before, at a certain point before construction, that there's at least a review of the materials, not necessarily a mock-up, but a larger review of like what these materials are physically that we can come and look at and see and touch to make sure that they are consistent with what we are looking at. So that nothing from this changes or evolves or gets VE'd. In the December it doesn't become hardy, or the Swiss pearl doesn't become hardy, because everything becomes hardy, right, Will? So, but I vote to approve facade.
Sure. So it sounds like the motion on the table is to approve the facade with the condition that prior to final construction, there is a review of materials by the UDC. Can I get a
think
second?
typically we would do that as part of our design
guidelines.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we will just do a vote to approve the facade. A second.
Second.
A motion by Frank and then a second by Tim. And now we'll move to a roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
and Frank Valdez.
Yes.
Great. And so with that, the motion passes with unanimous decision. Now we'll move to vote on design guidelines being met. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
That's a motion by Frank and a second.
Second.
Second by Andrew. And a roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
and Frank Valdez.
Yes. with the conditions, obviously, of the recommendations of the col the
Oh, that will be the
col
third for the
okay.
additional design guidance. But with 4 yeses, that motion will also pass. And then last but not least, the additional design guidance, which includes the study of the corner column and perhaps a consistent brick cladding for all of the columns of the building, a look into options to include street trees in coordination with Mass DOT and the City of Somerville, updates to the door to the transformer vault being replaced with a grilled door, and finally, before construction, there'll be a review of materials, a physical review that the UDC can review and approve so that they are consistent with what is shown here.
Yeah. And then one other one, just further study of alignment of upper story piers and ground level pier.
Thank you. And then the last alignment of upper story piers. Can I get a motion to approve these additional design guidance?
Motion.
Thank you, Andrew. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Martin. Second by Martin. And now to a roll call vote. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
Frank Valdez.
Yes.
Great. And this motion passes. Thank you, 205 Broadway team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Happy Thanksgiving all.
thanks, Anne. Next, we'll move to design review of 120, 132 Middlesex. And the case planner is Madison.
And I'd like to recuse myself from this project.
Sure. Can the participants who are presenting raise their hands so that we can promote? So I see 3, 4 people. And while Lexi is doing that, again, another reminder that the 120, 132 Middlesex team, you have 20 minutes to present before we go into discussion with the commission and then voting.
Stella, before we jump in with the applicant team, can I ask the case planner to just give an overview of the history of this? Because I believe this was before this commission previously.
Yeah, and I don't think our case planner is here.
She's here. I can promote her too,
Oh, Madison?
unless I already have. Oh, here we go.
Perfect. Thank you, Lexi.
And one more.
There she is. Sorry, Madison.
Hey, sorry about that. So history of this project is it came in for a pre-submittal a few weeks ago. They had their neighborhood meeting, I believe, 3 weeks ago, and now they're here to present their design proposals to the UDC. Is there any specific information you would like to know about like the history?
Well, I guess my question was that this project was before the UDC at one point. I don't remember specifically when. Might have been a couple of years ago.
It was.
Uh,
Yeah, I can throw a little bit of background on that. Darren Barrett from Goulston and Stores, outside project counsel, my co-counsel Anthony Guccio. We were here back, I believe it was in, correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, October of 2022, where we had there had been some changes to the project. We'd come forward to UDC, and it was determined by the planning department, by planning and zoning, that those changes were significant enough where we had to go and do a major amendment. So we've gone back now, done the major amendment, and now we're back here with that redesigned envelope from the major amendment going through UDC. So it was here before, but a little bit of a foot fault last time, but now we're here sort of officially through the process after that major amendment.
Okay,
Tim,
great, thank you.
the presentation tonight will have the advantage of taking those comments into consideration, and you'll see that in throughout the presentation. So it was helpful.
Great, thanks.
Great.
Estelos, do you want me to begin the presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay, awesome. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you to all of you for being here tonight on a holiday week. My name's Anthony Galluccio, as Darren said. I'm land use attorney for Divco West, joined by Darren Baird and Yoreni Sanchez. As Darren indicated, we started back in 2022. We were able to get comments from UDC, and then we went through a lengthy major amendment process, which ultimately became very helpful. We were able to assist on some design changes to assist the city's efforts at Cummings Street with improvements and take traffic off Cummings. We think it's a better project, and it was helpful to get all the departments involved. We're anxious to get permitted and entitled. It's a very competitive environment, and the faster you have entitlements, the better. So we're looking forward to a productive night tonight. We think the consultants have done a great job. I think you'll see the product of that work. So I want to introduce Senior Director of Development, Nicole Labossiere, who's done all the work on this. Nicole?
Thank you, Anthony. Good evening. As Anthony said, my name is Nicole Labossiere, and I'm Senior Director of Development at Divco West. I'm joined tonight by Matt Pierce, Project Architect at Perkins and Will, and Sean Sanger, Landscape Architect at Copley Wolf. We're excited to be here tonight to present the proposed building design for a new commercial lab building at 120 Middlesex. It's a key building that we commonly refer to as the gateway to Assembly's life science corridor. As people have alluded to, you might remember us in the project. We've been at it for a while, but the process has afforded us the opportunity to continue to collaborate with the city on items you'll hear more about tonight, like relocating our parking off Cummings and pulling the corner of the building back, resulting in what we believe is an even better building and site. One that's going to open to and connect with the adjacent future parcel developments. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Matt Pierce, lead architect with Perkins and Will.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, commissioners, for your time this evening. So 120 Middlesex is located between I-93 and Middlesex Avenue at the corner of Cumming Street and Middlesex. And just to locate yourselves, the courthouse is just to the north of the site, and there are future high-rise development sites to the south and to the west. And a little further south is, I think when we first presented this a couple years ago, 74 Middlesex was not built yet, but now it is constructed just down the street. This site has some really great views that have informed the design, and we're really trying to take advantage of. To the south, there are great views of the Boston skyline, and to the north, really amazing views of the Mystic River as well. Next slide. So just a summary of some of the basic stats of the project. This is a 19-story building, which includes a mid-level mechanical room and 2 mechanical penthouse levels at the top of the building. So of those 19 floors, 16 are occupied floors by the lab and office use, as well as some other active uses at the ground floor. The zoning height comes in just under 260 feet. The overall GFA for lab, commercial, and office space is 596,000 square feet, with floor plates that are 35,000 square feet. And one of the unique features of the building is it is designed to be able to host lab uses on all floors of the buildings, which is one of the reasons there is a mid-level mechanical room in the building. There are 5.5 levels of below-grade parking spaces with a count of 520 spaces, and the building will be LEED Platinum certifiable. So to start off, we'll begin with some views of the preferred massing and skin options that have been developed. This view looks down south, down Middlesex, and as Nicole noted, this is really the northern gateway to the life science corridor of the Assembly District. To the right in the foreground, again, to locate yourselves, is the courthouse. And this really shows how 120 Middlesex will become that new gateway. and has a strong presence with the existence of the smaller scale courthouse to the north. The preferred facade shown here is a combination of vision glass and opaque glass. On this side of the building, we have this type of facade on both this north side and also on the west side of the building. And it consists of an alternating pattern, this sort of a woven pattern. And this lab and office facade also wraps and masks that mid-building mechanical floor, as well as the lower of the two mechanical penthouse levels on the top of the building. You can also see a unique and sort of subtle detail here, which occurs on all four sides of the building, which is this inner layer of diagonal structural bracing. On the left side of the building, there's another unique feature for a lab and office building that is exterior balconies. They're on both this north side of the building with those views to the Mystic River, and on the south as well, taking advantage of those great views of the Boston skyline. And they also have also introduced kind of a unique human scale to a lab and office building. In the next slides, swinging around to look north up Middlesex, you can see 74 Middlesex on the left, which is now complete. In all the massing options, we've kind of focused on variations of ways of addressing this corner of Middlesex and Cummings. And in this option in particular, we've done this by kind of sweeping the Middlesex facade around the corner onto the Cummings side. So this gentle curve really kind of elegantly resolves the oblique corner of those two streets. And on the left-hand side in that view, you see the south-facing balconies, so that each floor has two balconies, one in the southwest corner and one in the northeast corner. And you can also see that layer, kind of subtle layer of diagonal braces behind the facade here as well. On the next slide, we're looking north on I-93 with 74 Middlesex to the right of the frame and the current La Quinta Hotel to the left of our building. And next slide, we're looking south on 93, and you can see the balconies, which are on both ends of the building, and the scale and relief that they create in the facades. In all these views, the penthouse forms the top of the building. And if you look closely, you can see the integrated louvers, which are all gathered on the west side, this west side of the building. So both at that mid-level mechanical room and also at the lower of the two penthouse levels, that's where the mechanical louvers are located. These are the three massing options seen from both the south and the north, and all of them acknowledge the corner of Middlesex and Cummings in a different way. Option one you saw in the rendered perspectives, and this is the team's preferred option. It has a curved facade at the corner of Middlesex and Cummings, and the balconies that I pointed out earlier in the southwest corner. It also has three basic facade types, which reinforce the massing to help make it legible. With that facade that sweeps the oblique corner from Middlesex onto Cummings. So those two sides really become kind of one continuous gesture. And then a different facade type on the west and the north side. In each of these options, you can see how the massing and facade creates a two-story base. At the bottom of the building, a middle is the lab and office floors, and a top, which is characterized by the upper of the two mechanical penthouse levels at the top of the building, with the lower of the two penthouse levels being masked by the continuation of the lab office facade. Option two has a notch in the corner of the building at Middlesex and Cummings, and a projection at the north corner. So it sort of creates a zone or a sliver of the building that runs along Middlesex that sort of gets displaced to the north to create that recess in the southeast corner and the projection in the northeast corner. And this diagram shows a facade strategy that reinforces that gesture with one type of facade on that kind of eastern zone of the building that is notched, and then the other type of facade wrapping around the other sides of the building. And then in option three, this combines elements of the other two with that notch receiving the balcony. So instead of being in the southwest, as in the preferred option, they're in the southeast. And also with balconies on that north corner as well. And it has a similar skin strategy that uses one type to highlight these two vertical elements with the balconies, and another type on the remainder of the occupied floors. And then moving to facade options, we have three basic patterns and materials that are combined in different ways in the three facade options on the preferred massing. So type 1 has a very vertical proportion that builds off of the 33-foot structural module. It's very common for lab spaces. And that's subdivided into an 11-foot base spacing that uses a combination of metal, vision glass, and spandrel glass, and vertical fins to create a very textured facade with relief. And just to note that all these facade types are compliant with the latest energy code with regards to the prescriptive envelope requirements. And that's why they all have a combination of vision glass and either metal panel or opaque glass in areas for greater level of insulation. Facade type 2 has a more horizontal expression that makes the floor-to-floor scale of the building more legible using the same combination of materials as facade type 1. And then type 3 is also a vertical in proportion that does not utilize the metal panel. It is a combination of vision glass, spandrel glass, and vertical fins. So this is facade option 1, which has our preferred massing that you saw earlier with a combination of the two facade types, the vertical metal and glass type 1 on the east and south facades, which is the one that sweeps from Middlesex to Cummings, and then type 3 on the north and west facades, which kind of contrast with the sweep of the other side. Facade option 2 uses the more horizontal pattern from type 2 on the east and south, and then type 3 on the north and west. In both option 1 and 2, we're differentiating between the Middlesex facade that sweeps the corner as one unified gesture, combined with the other type on the north side and the west side. And then finally, facade type 3 uses the type 3 facade, which is a combination of vision glass, spandrel glass, and vertical fins, and that is applied to all sides of the building in this case. So moving from the exterior views to the plans, we have been coordinating with city staff and adjacent property owners over the course of the development of the project in the intervening years to enable a future multi-use path that will connect Middlesex Avenue and Mystic Avenue. And that's the area that's hatched, the hatch path that cuts across diagonally on the plan in this view. And to do this, we've just pulled back the corner, the southwest corner of the building in a way to the path itself won't be a straight path as it's planned by the city, but it will create clipping this corner will really create visual continuity. So it's clear where you're going, where you can go when you're moving from Middlesex to the west. And one other thing worth noting on this plan is how we worked with staff to consolidate truck and car traffic to Middlesex Avenue in one curb cut. Previously, trucks entered off of Middlesex and cars off of Cummings, and with the collaboration or the kind of coordination between the other sites to the west and south, trying to reduce vehicle traffic on Cummings. And so now the vehicle traffic for both cars and for trucks has been consolidated to one curb cut on Middlesex Avenue. And that all is configured such that that loading area can accommodate the maneuvering of all the trucks on site and not on the street. And with that, I'll pass it on to Sean, our landscape architect.
Thanks, Matt. Sean Sanger with Copley Wolf Design Group. We are excited, as Matt and Nicole both mentioned, to really kind of work on the project and continue the streetscape developments that are certainly developing along Middlesex Ave and making that a much more comfortable, multimodal streetscape. So thanks again for having us here. Kind of the big move, I'll walk you around the base of the building. Middlesex Ave, our front door. We're showing large canopy trees that will certainly be a diverse mix of native species. All of those are planted in large treeways that are going to be able to promote water, air, so that our goal certainly is to have large canopy trees over time that will shade the sidewalk and certainly get some additional shade out onto Middlesex to mitigate the heat island effect, certainly in this area. Likewise, the understory planting there is really going to be a mix of shrubs, ground cover, perennials, variety of heights, and that's really starting to kind of speak to all of the fragrance, seasonality, the colors, textures of that plant material, making that really a richer, more inviting streetscape. If you go north of the tree in that kind of bright green ribbon that's running kind of parallel to the sheet, that's our protected bike lane. And then just further north, once again, plan sheet here, we do have a permeable paver median strip that separates and acts as a buffer between the cars and the bike lane, obviously protection for doors and whatnot. So that's all elevated up. So we do have a very, hopefully a comfortable bike lane, and that has all been coordinated with the additional bike lanes moving further down on Middlesex Ave. We do have seating as you're getting closer to the building. There's kind of a darker gray tone underneath the trees. There are linear kind of planters along that edge with the plant material drop, kind of a backdrop there, acting as a buffer to the street activities. And then as you move closer to the building, you can see that darker gray tone directly adjacent to the active use, kind of the blue ribbon that's the base of the building on the interior side. And you can see some tables and chairs in there. So that essentially the building itself cantilevers out over, I shouldn't say cantilevers, but extends out over. So you'll have a variety of seating. You'll have the linear that's a little more out in the open. Seasonality may be more interesting. Then as the weather gets warmer or you want some cover, we'll have that as well directly at the base of the building. And then, as Matt mentioned, as we have the curb cut coming off of Middlesex, we're pulling the green zone out so that we can mitigate the width of that and start to unify with the additional plant material in the streetscape that would be page to the left here. Briefly, as we work our way around Cumming Street, it's a little bit more of a narrower streetscape. We do have our blue bikes over there. Once again, the street trees are a little more of an ornamental scale, a little smaller, but once again, really striving to get to the color and the texture and the seasonality of those. And likewise, we are working with longer linear plant beds, once again, really trying to get those trees in an environment for them to perform and to grow. And likewise, all of those will be really great spaces for pollinators, food habitat sources for birds and insects. So really, once again, trying to green up the border and continuing to build upon what the momentum is over in this area. And then, as Matt mentioned, as we get down to the lower right-hand corner of the site, we have introduced a bit of a kind of a triangular form. So you can see the sidewalk really is hugging the base of the building, and that's the kind of the alignment of the path that'll get you down to 2023 Middlesex. And then at the likewise, it's a little harder to see, but there will be a sidewalk that continues parallel to Cumming. So we're introducing a bit of an elevated planter there with a bench that you can see almost at the property line that will really start to work with the design that is continuing on to the property page south. And then finally is the kind of the green ribbon. You guys have seen this, I know, at our last meeting. We've always had a kind of upright of a scale tree along there and are introducing an understory kind of a planting as well that I know came from comments from you guys here. I guess that's what going on 3 years ago now. So once again, kind of really speaking about the ground plane and kind of the activation of that and really the inviting of the public to experience that. And I will kick this back to Matt for some imagery. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Likewise, just briefly, the kind of the sections through here. Section A is Middlesex, so you start to see the building overhang. The sidewalk will be fully accessible. It will be concrete pavement, excuse me, and the overhang area will have more of an upgraded specialty paving, kind of activating that node. And then you start to see the linear planting, the big trees, the bike lane all protected and elevated, and the parking and the drop off. And then once again, you start to see that's kind of narrower scale along Cumming Street, but once again, picking up on all of those similar streetscape amenities, just in a slightly different scale. So now I'll pitch that back to Matt. Thank you.
And Matt, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sean. So this is an elevation perspective on Middlesex Avenue and shows the features that Sean was just describing. You can see the transparent storefront with views into the lobby and the food service active use at the ground floor, and also the depth of the facade. You can also see just behind the facade, oops, if you can stay on the previous one for a second, Jeff. You can also see just behind the facade that diagonal brace that I mentioned earlier, which is part of our perimeter lateral system. And it allows our structure to be relatively light compared with a more traditional system, and that helps reduce the weight of steel in the building and also therefore reduce the embodied carbon. It also becomes kind of a special feature that helps us highlight the entry to the building. Go to the next slide. This is a detailed view from the planter zone on Middlesex Avenue. And here you can see the two-story base expression that differentiates it from the top of the building, but that two-story base is broken down into two components to create this single-story zone, the arcade kind of under the building that spans column to column that Sean pointed out earlier. And we really do think this creates a pleasant kind of seating zone next to the pedestrian circulation zone of the sidewalk and creates some really great layering. And then finally, as we zoom in, you can see that we use this diagonal bracing that I pointed out earlier as a way to highlight the two-story building entry and the two-story lobby space. This also allows us to make an extra wide opening between the columns at the entry to really make that a clear, legible gesture at the main entry to the building. And with that, we'll conclude our presentation and welcome your questions and feedback. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Comments and questions from the commission?
In terms of the streetscape, is there anything on Cumming Street in terms of seating other than the triangle at the bottom, or is it just the narrower? Yeah, just curious, because there's the, or is there? I mean, I guess the question is, are there egresses from the fitness and et cetera onto Cumming Street, or is it that just a side? Yeah, basically just asking if those planters have similar sort of any thoughts towards similar sort of seating on those sides.
Yeah, Martin, we're not showing seating over there right now. It's really the scale. It's a little bit tighter, but we have introduced seating within that triangle area where it does start to broaden out a little bit, and you start to get a little bit wider. So certainly understand the thoughts, and obviously that will be a bit of an ongoing, continuing design element as well to be able to coordinate that with 2023 further page south for us.
Yeah,
Sure.
and to your comment about entries, there is an entry point to the bike room is located in the bottom right in this plan, and where the corner is squared off there. So that will actually have an entry point to the building there.
Oh, great, cool, thank you.
So one question, as long as you have this drawing up, the food and beverage services, is that intended to be a retail space?
You know, Nicole, do you want to talk a little bit about what you all intend for the use of that space? I mean, I think from a planning perspective, it's meant to be contiguous with the building lobby, but also have its own doors onto the street in that area. But I don't know if Nicole, if you want to talk to the actual programming of that space.
Yeah, when we started discussions on the active use for food and beverage within, we've talked about, cafe type spaces, open to the public, bringing the people in. It's, still open to discussion, but yeah, as of now, initial thoughts are cafe off of the main lobby entrance.
Okay. The intent's that it's publicly accessible?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm remembering this project now, and the site plan issues that we talked about a couple years ago. I think this really is a significant improvement, so really appreciate those updates to the site plan.
Thank you.
I have another question just related to the facade. So there's the interstitial mechanical floor, and then the facade, the kind of glass and metal facade is coming up to clad the first story of the penthouse as well. How are you treating the glass on those floors?
Yeah, so we've actually on both those floors, we'll have an interior, rather than doing a spandrel glass or a shadow box, we're actually going to have an interior wall that's set back from the facade. So there will be a shallow but accessible volume of space behind the glass. So that's basically the approach for both the mid-level mechanical room and for the lower of the two penthouse levels. And then, as you saw on the west side, is where we've consolidated all the louvers, which are integrated into the kind of panel spacing. They're all organized on the west side, so that on the south, east, and north, we don't have any louvers visible.
Okay. I think that sounds like a really good approach to that and consistency across the facade. One thing I'd just caution you about is the illumination of that space. Like we've seen, other projects where similar conditions, where there's been a lot of light cast on a very light wall close to that glass, and it really sticks out.
That's something we definitely want to be. That's a great point. It's something we want to be cognizant of, because it can look like a construction site if you just have glare. You see the light source, you get the glare. It feels very white, feels too harsh.
Exactly.
It's just like it's not the.
Exactly.
We want to achieve something a lot more subtle than that.
Say that I like the presentation. I think that I'm not 100% clear yet on the facade materials yet, as to what you're presenting and proposing and what they are. So that'll be one thing that I know that you have, yes, I know that you have that, the glass and the question on the metal panel is what the roof, penthouse is.
Yeah, so this if you look at type one, and if you can zoom in a little bit, Jeff, just so we can highlight the different features of that part. There's quite a bit of texture in the wall between. There's the metal panel itself, the kind of alternating metal panel and window there. Metal panel has sort of a recessed portion, so there's the main portion projects out 4 inches, and then there's sort of a recessed part that joins together with that vertical fin there. And so basically, when we get to the top of the building, the penthouse, that's really meant to recede. It will have probably a lighter or kind of a medium to light gray tone, so it's a little bit more recessive, but it will have a panelization pattern. It won't have the alternating glass and metal, but it will have a metal pattern that is kind of an evolution of this pattern down here, so they feel very cohesive. But it's really meant to be very calm and sort of recede and not draw as much attention to itself.
And it's like, product, color, material, more specifics on that. Like
Sure.
we see a lot of proposals on what the penthouse materiality is, and we want to make sure that we're looking at exactly what the finished product is going to be, so that we're looking at it correctly. One of the things that we've asked is also on the penthouse, there's been situations in which penthouses are lit up to accentuate them. We are going away from that, and the idea that not light them up to accentuate, a penthouse that doesn't need accentuation.
Yeah, I think we totally agree with that. Like I said, it's not so much a crown, a really expressive top to the building. It's really meant to be kind of a secondary element that's quite calm.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, we'll be voting on the facade design guidelines and massing options. So if you all want to pivot to talk about any of those pieces.
Yeah, I think on the massing options overall, I think there's merit to several of the options that you've shown, pros and cons. Generally I'm comfortable with what your preferred massing option is. I think my only hesitation is that this side of the building, when seen from Assembly Row, is going to, just because of the geometry of the building and the kind of continuous nature of the face, it's going to appear very broad. I think what that makes the articulation in the facade that you're proposing, that depth of the metal panel, the depth of the fins, I think even more important.
Yeah, and I hope that with the vertical fins, especially when they catch the light differently, even if you get it helps to kind of read the slight change with the different angles. There's a slight reading of different density from a distance that helps, and certainly like the east side, those fins will catch the light in a different way than the south side, which I think will help to differentiate those two faces.
I assume, given the tight radius, that you're using actual curved glass around the corner?
No, so we actually, and I was thinking of this because of your question on the previous project. I have to look back and see exactly what the radius of that is, but so the idea is that it will be made of flat pieces of glass and metal, but we've made a radius that's large enough that increment. So the module, the metal panel, the total metal panel width is of the opaque area is 5.5 feet, and then the glass is 5.5 feet. So we actually looked at that pretty carefully to get a large enough radius that without doing curved glass, we can actually get still a smooth kind of interpolation of the surface. We have looked at actually doing, though we were discussing doing maybe the curved glass on second floor or the ground floor where the facade does step back and has a tighter radius, and it is much more transparent there. So that's something we're kind of looking at for the lobby articulation, just because, like I said, I look at a lot of times at that, what is it in the Seaport, I can't remember the name of it, the old Manulife building, which was the SOM building that had kind of a nice module that was just narrow enough to be made of straight segments, but actually read quite smooth. So that's something we're very cognizant of.
I would say that I'd like you prefer option one massing, but I do prefer your option two facade. I think that the image that you have up right now, the emphasis of the structural system is so prevalent, and it becomes almost part of the facade by default.
Mm.
And I do like the articulation of yes, exactly, the option two facade, in which it begins to remove from that and create more of an emphasis as to the exterior. And there's something elegant about that. And you want one thing to be more important than the other. And I don't know whether it's a rendering issue. Perhaps it could be. I don't know. I don't know how the thickness of those, lateral bracings are. But my preference would be that I think that this is an interesting facade. It's a little bit different than what we're seeing in that area as well. It would present a change in the architecture that you continuously see, and it makes it seem like it's not necessarily a lab, it's not necessarily an office, it could be residential. It has this like a multitude of abilities that it could be, and that's interesting in that sense. The first facade is just like it's like boom, here we are, I'm a lab building, and I will always be a lab building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think to your point on the bracing, I mean, that's something that we thought could be, interesting to, added a unique layer of interest to the building. It is something that can be played up or played down. If you, like many things with, spandrel and shadow boxes and things, we use a darker color. It can be very recessive. The window tends to, the glass, when you're looking into a space during the day, looks generally pretty dark. So if you painted the structure medium gray or something else, as we often do with shades to make those not stand out so much, you could do the same thing with the structure to sort of downplay it. The one challenge I think with this particular approach, just by emphasizing the horizontal, is you can really see the different floor to floor height at the mid-level mechanical level, and it just it has a requirement for a different height than the typical floors. When you do the kind of woven vertical pattern, it masks, I mean, it is taller, but you don't really notice it. It tends to kind of blend it in really well. And this, I would like to, if we could find a way to make it less obvious, that would be helpful, because it looks, I think, Tim just notices too. It's a bit of an anomaly in the middle of the building that's hard to, it's kind of hard to resolve with a very vertical expression or horizontal.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It really jumps out, that interstitial floor, and then the top floor too. And it's relatively small difference in floor to floor.
Yeah.
But I think the horizontal expression emphasizes that. I think just one other consideration with this, I think expressing the horizontal and these kind of smaller the smaller kind of horizontally oriented rectangles may end up making this side of the building feel bigger, broader, than something that's more vertically oriented.
Yeah, and I think to your point earlier, like we don't have a view from far away, but if you were to go to the right and back somewhere else in the district, you will get a different impression. It's true. I think that the verticality helps to mitigate that scale of the facade from a further vantage point.
Can you go back to just the view, I think the ground level view of the entry? Maybe showed the kind of depth panel.
Yeah, and so you see the vision glass is 5.5 feet wide, and then the metal, which is kind of has 3 vertical components there, is a total of 5.5 feet wide, but it's the wider part projects out 4 inches from the glass, there's that kind of recessed zone, which is kind of tall and skinny, and then it has the fin, connected to the side of that. So it ends up creating. I don't know if you back up a little, Jeff, to the maybe slide 22. This is how you get this, which we thought was quite a rich, kind of overlapping overlapping pattern that was pretty unique in the district. It would also quite a bit of shadow, just generated by those different kind of planes of the metal panel and the fins.
Yeah, I guess one other thing just about this view, I think we're seeing that curved corner as it goes around. It looks like you've rendered it as curved glass on level 2.
Yeah, on level 2, yeah, we went through this with we had a conversation with a couple years ago with the team about that, just because that part, because it is all glass and it's not as doesn't have the kind of combination of materials. It seemed like, especially because it is a real focal point at the ground level too, as you're walking, and it's so transparent. We thought that was important to actually make the radius on the all glass corner there.
Yeah, I'd say, I'll trust you on the upper floors that you've studied this, and the segmenting will read as a smooth curve around the corner. I guess two things I'd encourage you to look at. One is, if the glass is flat, understand the cost of curved glass. You don't want to carry that all the way up the building. But the panels that are set into the glass could still be curved. And that may be something that's worth looking at. Certainly anything that's horizontal would want to be curved. At the top of level 2, up at the top of the building, wherever we have a horizontal band. But maybe even the individual panels get a slight curve as well.
Yeah.
I think the sunlight will pick that up.
Yeah.
The other thing to be conscious of is, I'm sure this is going to be a unitized curtain wall system, and they're going to want to make those unitized panels as wide as possible, and wide horizontal frames. Just making sure that it's segmented in as small of a module as possible around that corner.
Yeah, I'd say the curve, or the rounded part is probably, I don't know, 5% of the facade. That if they need to make those into smaller modules, as you say, that seems like pretty reasonable. Whereas all the other faces are straight sections where they can do probably not the full structural bay of 33 feet, but they could probably do the 22-foot module, I would think. But then probably you could do smaller pieces on or see if they may be able to fabricate the multiple segments together at the curved portion. That's something we'll definitely work with them on. It is one of the advantages, actually, though, too, of the the vertical pattern over the horizontal, because when you get to the horizontal, when the horizontal wraps a curve, it gets a lot. And then you were talking about on the previous project too, and there's plenty of examples of kind of poorly constructed, segmented horizontal kind of projecting elements that is just harder to execute successfully, I'd say, and economically. So that's another advantage of the vertical pattern, I'd say.
Yeah, that's great. And unless there are any other comments from the commission, makes sense to move this along and ask for the commission to vote. So we'll be voting on, again, facade design guidelines, massing options, and any additional design guidance.
Yeah, I guess just one thing before we vote, I'd be comfortable voting on facade, well, basically everything. Frank raised a point about materials and material samples. I think, typically we're asking for specific materials when a project comes through design review and colors. I don't know, Frank and Martin, how you feel about that?
3 miles. No, I would like to, I would love to see what the proposal is, what the glass is, what the metal panel is, what a lot of these components of the facade are similar to what we saw previously, in which people are showing us what the materiality, what the product is, what the color is. I think it gives us a better idea as to what that is. So that's an important piece.
I agree. I'd like to see more. It's a little in the abstract. There's some good ideas here, but yeah, it's hard to tell exactly.
Yeah, so perhaps we take a vote on massing option, facade option, design guidelines, but hold on additional design guidance.
Yep, that sounds great. So we will begin with a vote on the facade options. So can I get a motion from either Frank, Tim, or Martin, with Andrew recusing himself?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Tim. And now to a roll call vote. Martin Pavlinich,
Yep.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
Frank Valdez.
Yes.
So sorry, which option?
I think that was option one.
One. Yep, with the vertical.
Yeah, the preferred option.
Great. And with 3 votes, that motion is approved. And then the second is the a vote for massing, which was also for the preferred option, option 1, with a curved corner. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Frank. And now with a roll call vote, Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon. I saw your mouth move, but I didn't hear you for some reason.
Yes.
Okay. And then Frank Valdez.
Yes.
Great. And that motion also passes. The third is for that this design meets the appropriate design guidelines. Can I get a motion for this from the commission?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Roll call vote. Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
and Frank Valdez.
Yes.
Great. So we're 3 for 3 so far, with this motion also getting approved. And then the last is the additional design guidance, which includes getting more information on the facade, including product, color, and materiality.
I think
And
the
then,
motion would be to continue to the next meeting. The team will
yes,
come back with that.
yes. So study and continue for the next meeting for the facade options. And then did we also want to include thinking about the illumination of the mechanical floors and glass treatments, or is that sort of folded into the facade option?
So my suggestion would be that the applicant team comes back with the specific materials. We'll review that and then take a vote on the additional design guidance at that time.
Okay. So effectively tabling the vote for the additional design guidelines. And I see a nod from Martin, so it seems like.
Yes. Sounds good.
Great. And so with that tabled, I think you all are set for 120 to 132 Middlesex team.
Can I, Estelle or Mr. Chair, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So are we lined up potentially for December 9th? Just because I worry about the holiday meeting. Is that I don't know if that's possible, but is that a possibility to be back at the next meeting? I thought Tim might have referenced that.
I'm going to ask Lexi, who might have a little bit more info on what is on the agenda for the next meeting.
So you could definitely be put on that agenda. I can have this item on there. But we just have to confirm quorum and make sure we have 3 members who are able to attend. I think I've confirmed 2 maybe, but I have to send out a reminder email. But your case planner will let you know whether we have quorum or not. And if not, I can get you on the first meeting in January.
Yeah, obviously because we still have to get we'll still have to go out to the neighborhood again, even though they've seen it a lot many times, and then to the board. So hope anything we can do to get there on the 9th. And thank you, and also thank Madison for her help getting us here tonight.
Yeah, we
Perfect.
can do the 9th or the 23rd, depending on quorum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Can the case planner ask a question? We
Yes.
still need the materials in advance before UDC meetings, correct? Like a week in advance. So, just make sure the materials are sent to us a week in advance before the December 9th meeting. That's all.
Yeah.
Is that the physical material samples or just a digital presentation?
The digital presentation.
The start is a digital presentation, but I think that eventually you're going to need a full mock-up. But initially, just see the materiality that you're proposing, brand, make, color, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
You like that, right, Anthony?
So almost a photo of a material box.
We understand materials, right? So like brick, red, whatever it is, like understanding what the composition of the materiality palette of the building is, imagery put in a board initially with the brand and name and stuff like that. So we understand it. That's what we would like to see.
Sounds good.
Right. Perkins and Wilton, you have a week. But thank you all for coming.
I'll cook Thanksgiving for you guys. Don't worry. You guys do the real work.
Lobster mac and cheese.
There you go.
That sounds good.
I'm hanging out with Frank.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Thank you.
And next on the agenda is the design review for 1154 Broadway. And this is Kit's is the case planner. And I know, Kit, you have to jump at 7:45. So if we can get the team who is presenting, get their hands raised so that we can promote you all and give you access to share screen.
This is Kit. I think Adam Dash has been promoted to panelist, and he can let you know if anyone else needs to be promoted.
Thank you. Yes, Adam Dash, 48 Grove Street, representing the applicant here. We need Binoj Pradhan and Will Chalfant, and I see Will is there, and Binoj is the representative. So Will's from KDI Architects, Binoj is from 1154 Broadway Realty Trust, who's the applicant. Just before we get into this, I guess, can we get permission to share screen, if that's possible? I don't know, maybe give it to me or Will. You may be familiar with 1154 Broadway. Most people call it the Pit in Teal Square. At the moment, where it was a commercial building that had burned down a number of years ago. Properties in the mid-rise 4. There you go. Thank you. And it's not in a transit area. It's a pedestrian street district on the Broadway side. The properties at the corner, as you can see here. Well, I'm pointing with my cursor that you can't see, but it's properties at the corner of Broadway and Clarendon Ave. So it has 2 street fronts.
That's the Somerville pool, right?
Yes, it's the Pit. Yes, it is the property was permitted for a 6-story hotel under the old zoning in 2018, which was extended in 2020 due to COVID, and that approval has since expired. So the client now proposes an 8-story hotel with 99 rooms on the site, which is more than the MR4 allows, but which is just 2 stories more than the previously approved 6-story hotel from 2018. And the hotel of less than that in height is not financially feasible now. And so we have been working on this project, and we had a neighborhood meeting that was very well attended, and I would say well received. And at this point, Will can walk you through what we're proposing. Will?
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Hello, everyone.
So can I ask just a question, Adam, to what you just said? The hotel is being proposed to a higher height than what is allowed?
Correct. We're seeking a variance for height and for number of stories, along with a couple of other things.
So, Stello, what does that do to our review process? We are not the ZBA or the planning board. that can do that. So we are reviewing a project that is seeking a variance. Have they gotten the variance yet?
Yeah, I'm
And
gonna.
if they have not gotten the variance, should we be reviewing it?
Kit, do you have more background on that?
Yeah, so since the UDC is part of the pre-application phase and an advisory review, I can double check with our senior staff or our director, but I believe the proper course of action would just be to review the design, noting that this is not a zoning compliant project currently as they haven't sought their variance,
Right.
but they're not at
No,
that phase.
I get that added, but wouldn't that be like us approving this would not even help you in that
Seems like
because then you would.
it seems like we could review it just at the end. We're gonna whatever we're gonna do, we're gonna vote that it doesn't meet the design guidelines because it doesn't
Okay.
meet them.
Okay.
I would say
okay. So we can't vote on it, right? So we can't vote on it.
Well, I would say you would vote on the project that's being applied. We've had projects in front of you for variances of all sorts of things,
Okay.
setbacks and such. This just happens to
Okay.
be a height one, but there are variances all the time on projects. And you guys weigh in on them. To the extent the ZBA approves the project, they want your feedback on the project that we're seeking. If they didn't grant the variance, then there's no project at all, and the entire thing doesn't matter anymore. So,
All right. Okay.
Well,
Let's
I
go.
guess, I mean, to
Yeah.
that point, just to clarify what we're reviewing, my understanding is typically when we take a project through design review, it's after it has secured any variances that it's needed. However, there have been instances where we've reviewed projects that are seeking variances, but the input we're providing is specific to those variances being sought. So I guess in this case, it would be on height, whether the height's appropriate for this location. Is that
that's a way of looking at it. Sure. I mean, I was before you with one a while back on Broadway where we were not compliant with a side setback and we were seeking a variance, and you just, did your recommendations, and then we went on to the board and they granted it in that. Oh no, well, whether they granted it or not is irrelevant, I guess, to your advice. Your advice is really, if they approve the project that we're seeking, what would you recommend? If they don't approve it, then that's a whole different. Then, like I said, this whole process doesn't matter at that point because they don't approve it, and the whole thing would have to change. But there's, site plan approval for the building, for instance. So there are things that and special permit for the hotel use, for instance. So there's other general relief. The variance just happens to be part of it.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I don't think it precludes you from analyzing what we're going to show you. You analyze what we show you, and then the board will do what it will with it, I suppose.
Okay. Sure. Let's go.
I would say just at the outset, it not having secured variances yet, I wouldn't be comfortable on voting, consistency with design guidelines and additional design guidance. Happy to review and provide feedback.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, again, Will Chalfant from KDI Architects. I think everyone who's in and around Somerville is familiar with what Adam referred to, what the residents referred to as the pit, former laundromat years ago, and then there was a fire, and it has since become a swimming pool for rodents. So just to familiarize yourself with where we are, we've got Clarendon Ave to one side of it and Broadway. Broadway, which becomes then veers off the Holland Street down to Davis Square beyond. We're next to what formerly was Rudy's. I believe there's a new establishment. I don't know if they're open yet, but they're going in there now. So we just have the existing site plan. I'll quickly walk you through the plan. So from the site plan perspective, the building here is highlighted in red. From a footprint standpoint, it has not changed significantly since the 2018 approval. We've recessed this area here, which will be an outdoor patio space. I think one major item to point out here is we are proposing for the portion of Clarendon Ave from our property line to Broadway to become two-way, for the simple fact that right now it's a one-way on Clarendon, page north to south, and we would like people to be able to drop off in this underneath the hotel here in the drop-off area, and then circle back. Then the valet, rather, would circle back them down the ramp into the parking garage below. So we have developed a landscape plan. I'll note that there is an approved transformer vault located in this area here. So while we are proposing some decorative paving here, I think it's important to note there will be 3 manhole covers in this area. We're hopeful that we can blend those in with the stained concrete that we're proposing. So obviously the building takes up the majority of the site here. We're showing some plantings along here, new street trees along the front of the building. We do have to check and see about access to that transformer vault with those 2 trees. We may have to relocate one of them. But right now that's where we're proposing them. There's an 8th floor, which has the restaurant and an outdoor space, terrace rather. So we do have some plantings up on that level. And then based on the size of this building and of course the new energy code and other zoning elements, we have a fully vegetated roof. We are allocating, now we're a little confused on how we're supposed to sort of match the requirement for PV, solar array with the green roof. I know they can be done in conjunction with each other, but I'm not sure on the percentages how that works. That's probably a administrative question for another day. But I just wanted to point out that we have by zoning standards met all of the requirements of the green score for the proposed project. So again, quickly taking you through the plans, the garage here is on the left. That will be valet only. There'll be no guests utilizing this. They will drop that off at the main entrance, and valet will take that down to what we have for car lifts. We're proposing 35 spaces in this garage level for 99 rooms. We, on the ground floor level, have a lobby predominantly off of this drop-off area. We want the restaurant street facing, which handles the first 30 or so feet of the building along Broadway. Got a kitchen on this level, as well as obviously a sitting area, typical hotel sort of lobby space items. The upper floors, we have, typical mix of room styles, as well as we've located a fitness room on the second floor. We have housekeeping every other floor. And then on the top floor, we have a restaurant. So we're proposing 2 commercial spaces for this project. The ground level, more than likely cafe based on size, could be a restaurant. And then the top floor restaurant should be more of a full service restaurant. And that also has the outdoor roof deck area for enjoying the view. So design option 1, the preferred option here. Given its location, obviously this is from a scale perspective and its immediate abutters, this is significantly larger than anything around it. I would note that a little bit down the way on, I believe it's the Weston Towers, that's an 8-story building. Then there are a few 11-story buildings a little bit further down. And then the recently, I don't think it's quite completed, but the affordable housing project that's going on along Alewife Parkway there.
Clarendon Hill Towers. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that's 11 stories as well. So while this is, as some neighbors put, slightly jarring in scale, the majority of the folks we've had multiple neighborhood meetings. We're really positive. I think honestly, there's a lot of fatigue on this lot being underdeveloped. So I think it's more about getting this developed than anything else. But with that said, we wanted to use elements that are familiar with the immediate abutting architecture, brick. Obviously then we have this large expanse of panel, but we didn't really want to have that be a focal element. So we're proposing a large mural on one facade here that's facing Broadway. The thought was that be something that we could work in conjunction with the neighborhood on, possibly have some sort of brainstorming session there to come up with something that everyone's proud of, and it's sort of a placemaking element of the hotel. As I mentioned, the ground sort of treating this as a 1-3-1 massing, a base, a middle, and a top, with stone element on the ground level, prominently Ariscraft. Obviously, this will be not only high-rise but prescriptive code. So we're showing insulated panels on the upper level, and then the brick, which we believe we can achieve. Obviously, there'll be some joints on that, being a 6-story element, but we've used some brick detailing to highlight these windows and also sort of hide the inevitable P-TEC that will be in these hotel rooms. All balconies right now we're proposing to be glass to keep the transparency, and also on that they're mostly on the top floor level, which is set back from the lower floors. So this is working around. I think the perspectives give a little bit more context here. So again, we treated the corner. I mean, these are all rooms here. We've got bathrooms along these walls here. So wanted to have a bit of a highlighted element here, but it's really about sort of breaking the scale down slightly to elements that are more familiar with the immediate abutters. There are some 3- and 4-story row houses on a few of the abutting streets. Apologize, my screen just went blank again. So we have some contextual views showing this is coming down Broadway, seeing the hotel here, coming from the other direction on Broadway. The recess here where the cafe seating is would occur right in this area here. And then you can see a little bit better. This is coming down Curtis Street, looking directly at the hotel. And then this is a rooftop deck, where all the beautiful people hang out, enjoying the views of the city beyond. So we have some, contextual, obviously scale wise, we are much larger than anything around us. But it's important to show this. So we did develop a few other options as well as massing options. The second option, and I want to apologize for some of the colors that are a little bright. I think the renderings show a little bit better. But this was an alterating of color to brick, sort of treating these as more 6-story bays, but then breaking up this corner piece with a different color panel, something a little bit more vibrant. We did hear from the neighborhood that, our first version, 6-story version years ago, was a little bit funky. We had some bay windows that sort of pushed and pulled, and we had a sculptural element on the corner, and folks kind of liked that idea. They wanted to know where the funk went. So we thought we'd give a little bit different option here. So this shows, this sort of vibrant green panel. One of the options, we're not sure it's going to be a Hilton. That's been in discussions with the ownership, but Hilton does have a line of hotels called the Graduate Hotels, which are tied then in with local universities. So one thought is we might potentially tie in with Tufts, be a good way to create a revenue stream for both the hotel and helpful the school. So some of those colors may actually delve more towards Tufts. I'm not saying it's going to be baby blue and brown, but that's just something we could probably look at in the lobby side of things. Option 3 is looking at bringing the scale down along the street sides a little bit. Sort of along both streets, having this read more as a 4-story building where we heavy cornice set back those upper floors. We can only push and pull those so much because we have to maintain, our room size. We have requirements for that. This gives us a little bit more option to insert those P-techs within these panels if that is the route that we go. That hasn't been finalized yet, but then also we're carrying that brick up on that corner element a little bit further, sort of to break up the massing of the overall scale of the building. So, sort of a side-by-side, comparison of these 3 options, looking at different ways of manipulating this massing. And then we did look at a few other massing options. So obviously our first one is our preferred option is more of a, it's utilitarian in some respects. It's square based on what we need to achieve within the footprint from a room standpoint and a count. We looked at a curved option where we're not losing too much, but we sort of have this ground floor element that pokes forward, and that would be the commercial space there, that ground floor restaurant. Sort of having the hotel fade back slightly, and then looked at another option, again, sort of breaking it up into a 1 and then 2 floor increments, just to try to break that scale down, introduce some more horizontal banding, and then maybe just changing how those elements relate on each street side. So this would be more of the Clarendon side, where a little bit more of a vertical approach, whereas then we come around to the Broadway side and we transition to a little bit different approach. So we do have some shadow studies, but I know that's not pertinent to this conversation. So let's respect everyone's time. I'll kick it to the board.
Thank you, Will. Members of the commission, any comments?
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions, Will. Um, I assume that this project has to comply with Passive House,
Correct.
right? So my question, and I think in Stellar, I think it's a question perhaps moving forward, and because I think that the compliance does impact design, and it's really interesting to think about it in both ways. Is like when we're looking at a project that it has to be compliant with Passive House, there are a lot of components that actually do impact some of the design components. So understanding that, I think it's key. So I guess the first question to Will is gas being brought into the facility for the restaurant? And if yes, then that means that your roof has to be solar from day one, right? 'Cause I know there's options about the idea of doing combined, fuels, but I think having an understanding as to which one triggers what, so that when you present, we know that if you are bringing gas and the intent is to bring gas to the building, therefore, yes, you'll be allowed to bring gas into the restaurant, but therefore it impacts the need for you to have solar, which impacts your roof, which impacts your green space, which impacts all of that, right? So I think that a clarity on that would be good to understand because also impacts obviously your facade and how your window to wall ratio is. And the other question was the manhole covers that you're talking about for transformers. Are those buried below ground?
The vault is buried below.
The vault is, again, to that, I would like to have a confirmation that Eversource is on board with that because that is below basically the level of in Cambridge, for example, you can't put anything below elevation 29. So the sustainability components on that and whether there's a flood or anything do impact that. So if you have their okay on that, because I did design the building in Somerville and they didn't allow us to bury it and we had to move it up. So again, if you're designing a component of the building with the assumption that you can bury the vault, and then after the fact that you get approvals from Eversource and they say, no, you can't put it underground, now you got to move it up, it changes your design. So again, I would like to understand that there's a confirmation and approval from Eversource that you are allowed to put it underground.
So we do have an approved plan from Eversource for the 6-story building.
But you don't have an approval for a underground potentially.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The
vault,
do?
Okay.
The vault, the underground vault was approved. Now,
Okay.
I just want to say, well, I'd like to put a caveat out there only because I know the flood maps have changed significantly in the last year and a half. So I don't know. That is a very good point, Frank, that we should check with them to make sure that that hasn't changed their view on this. But I will say it was previously approved for this location.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are two critical points that I would say. Look, I think if this place needs development, and I think that a hotel there would be ideal, sure. But I think that, Tim and I have gone back and forth on things that we've gotten surprised upon after the fact, and transformers appearing in front of buildings, and, that's not what we approved. And then it's like, oh, well, Eversource said we couldn't do what we said to you. So we want to make sure that what we are looking at moving forward works with what you are proposing. And I think it's in all fairness to whoever's going to be operating the hotel and yourselves. So.
Understood. With the assumption that we'll be seeing you again, I can bring that approved plan next time.
So
And I would say, Stello, that it would probably be necessary for you to have an approved letter from Eversource saying that it has been accepted as a design direction to be able to have a underground vault for it, and that they are okay with that, so that the architect and developer can move forward with the design of such programmatic component, whichever way you want to call it, but. I think it would be key to understand that.
Right.
And then the gas thing as well in relatively to how it impacts the roof because Andrew, I don't know, maybe you have a say on that, but if there's a green roof, was there a green roof, Will?
Yes.
On the roof? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would impact, if you're bringing gas and Passive House is saying, yeah, you can bring gas, but you have to be solar ready from the moment you open. That means that you have to put roof panels on there, and that means that you have no green roof, and I don't know what that does to your landscape green score.
I would defer to, I think it would drastically hurt it if we lost the green roof. I think it's also a requirement for.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Right. So,
yeah.
At the same time, I know, Passive House, your commercial spaces can be exempt from the, bringing gas in. I also have worked with restaurateurs that really don't want to deal with anything but gas. So I think it's a good point, and we need to seriously address
Yeah.
how that's
I think you just need to tackle that because I'm going through the same issue, and we are not putting gas because
right.
the implications of putting gas are tremendous.
Right. It may be a non-starter to your point.
So before we get into sort of some of the green square things and some of the landscape pieces, which also we should have a landscape architect here. And I would request that for the next meeting as well. We don't review zoning, but it jumps out that the curb setback on Clarendon is not meeting the 12-foot standard.
It's only required on Broadway side because that's the pedestrian street.
We're only required to have a 12-foot setback on one street.
On the pedestrian street, which is the
what is the required setback on Clarendon?
0.
On the curb setback. So I'm not talking about the offset from the property line. I'm talking about from the curb itself. Because my understanding is that Somerville has a 12-foot curb setback, period.
But we are seeking a variance for the secondary front setback as one of the variances that we're seeking.
So you're asking us, so the setback from a road curb to the building is supposed to be 12 feet, which allows us to have street trees and all the things that we get. But this building is coming significantly close. You can see it up in the corner on Broadway that you've set it back 12 feet. But your column's coming down and the building that's overhanging is significantly closer than 12 feet on Clarendon Avenue.
Agree. That's the concerning bit there.
And yeah, not legal.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew, because I didn't catch that earlier, that was one of the variances being sought. I would have a hard time supporting that variance. I don't think there's a hardship here that's requiring a narrower sidewalk. It just seems like the building wants to
No,
get
sort of
bigger.
I'm not going to support a pot cochere with a drop off and a reversal of Clarendon Street to make it a 2-week vehicular street so we can get a shitty sidewalk with no street trees. It's so vehicularly oriented and preferential that it's a little bit ridiculous and obnoxious to see in this meeting. I would also ask, again, landscape architects should be here. I think there's some real weird design decisions here. I don't understand why we move from this sort of diagonal, almost like checkerboard pattern to a harlequin pattern for no clear reason. I don't think it's well resolved in front of the building. All of your renderings from Clarendon Avenue are showing these giant evergreens that are in raised planters that are about 2 feet wide. And those evergreens and those renderings are doing a lot of the work of screening that porte cochere, and they are impossible in the landscape plan that's miscanthus, which is a seasonal grass, which gets to 3 feet tall. You're about 8% of your total green score is weighted on one tree that's planted about 2 feet off the edge of the building and a plant bed that is incredibly too narrow to support it. So you're not making the green score with or without that, because that's not even you're not gonna be able to get a root ball in there to support that. Um, there's a lot of challenges here that I think really need to be worked through with more care.
I'll add two comments. One, I think the orientation of the building to Broadway is strange, having the face of the building not parallel to the street. I would at least need to understand that better. I mean, that's the primary frontage. I think it's just it's strange from an urban design perspective, and to have the building not parallel to the street there. I would say overall, one of the big issues here is height. You're seeking a height variance. I would say I'm personally not totally opposed to the idea of additional height here. I'm not sure why it needs to be a variance, why you wouldn't just seek a map change that would allow the additional height. I would say that, you know, it- because it's a hotel building, the shorter floor to floor heights, it's not that different from like a MR6 commercial building height overall. But I would say one of the things that isn't helping it is the way you're treating the top floor of the building. You have a cornice at level 7, and then this top floor that's expressed differently. But it's not really set back from any of the lower floors. It's basically the same footprint, except where you have the terrace. I think both MR5 and MR6 have specific upper floor setbacks, and I think thinking differently about that top floor and perhaps introducing additional setbacks that really differentiate it from the lower floors would help a lot. But I generally agree with Andrew's comment as well. We're not going to get into the specific architectural review today, but there's a lot of things to resolve.
I would note that we did have conversations with the city about whether to do a map change or whether to go forward with the variance. And there was a lot of neighborhood outcry at a number of meetings to get this moving, and that it would be much quicker to seek the variance than to go through the whole map change process and then have to go through the zoning process, which isn't required no matter what for site plan approval for the building and special permit for the hotel use at a minimum. So the idea was to go through it this way, and that was sort of the consensus of all the people involved. But we did think of that. That would put the project probably like a year behind.
Any other comments from the commission? Nope. So from what I'm hearing, it seems that the commission is prepared only to make a vote on facade and massing options. And then we can decide if we want to vote on whether or not this meets design guidelines or if that is going to be tabled for the next session once the variance is approved, that in addition to any additional design guidance. Does that sound right, commissioners?
I don't even know that I want to vote
I
for
don't even,
design and
yeah,
massing. I think just
yeah, I
we've
don't
given
think
them a
we're
lot of
ready to,
feedback and we just ask them to come back to another meeting to review.
yeah, I don't think we're ready to vote on it. I would concur with Andrew on that. I think that there's a lot um, that we need to know.
Okay, so it sounds like the motion on the table. Oh,
I guess I wonder if we want to make a motion just to go on the record about Clarendon Ave, the sidewalk there.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
that is not resolved and understood, then we don't need to see it again. That has to be resolved before we see it again, or an understanding that is even possible, which it shouldn't be.
But I guess if a variance were to be granted allowing that, then that would limit our discretion to weigh in to provide further feedback. I'm wondering, does this commission want to make a statement that we don't agree with that variance.
Yeah, I guess I would like the city to weigh in as to whether or not that's even a real variance to ask for. I mean, we've seen a lot of these. I haven't seen any project come through that is less than 12 foot off from the curb. We haven't seen any of those. So I don't think it's possible.
This is Kit, the case planner. That's something that I'll have to verify with our director before the next meeting, but unfortunately, I don't have the answer for you tonight.
Yeah, so they can always apply for it. I haven't seen one like this for reduction of the sidewalk, but usually we tell them they're allowed to apply for it, and it's just up to the ZBA whether they want to grant it or not. But we could continue this to the next meeting and see if they wanted to update anything depending or give y'all some more information depending on the conversation tonight. And then Kit and I can get more info from Dan about the possibility of variance, and then we come up with a vote at next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we are seeking a variance for secondary front setback. So, I mean, it's part of the application. The ZBA will grant it or the ZBA won't grant it, but I don't think the director can say what they're going to do or not going to do. I mean, we can apply for.
Yeah, I just meant that we could
apply.
tell the commission history if there were any recent variances like this.
So I'll make a motion to that the commission notes concern about the application for a secondary front setback variance and does not support that.
I would second that.
Okay, so the motion on the table that was seconded was that the commission is expressing concern about the secondary front setback variance and does not support that. And so we will move for a roll call vote for that. Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon,
Yes.
and Frank Valdez.
Yes.
So this motion passes to express the commission's concerns about that variance. And it seems like we are not ready to make any more additional votes on the facade design guidelines, massing options, or additional design guidance, but we'll have to see you all in a future meeting.
Do you know when that would be, Estella?
So we have, depends on when you all are ready. The next ones that we have on the docket are the 9th, which again, to what we know, we have to have materials ready a week beforehand, and then the following meeting would be the 23rd of this year.
I guess that's more of a Will question.
Bill and Stella, though, I would ask for you to consider this. If you come back in front of us, hypothetically, and we approve this, right, and say, oh, yeah, this looks great, because I think something needs to be done there. But then you continue moving through the process, and then you get to the ZBA, and they go like, yeah, no, you're violating this. We're not going to give you this variance. So it changes your design. Stello, does that kick it back down to us? And does that seem like a efficient process versus the idea that they should at least try to understand what they can do from a zoning perspective in a variance, so then we can review, right? I mean, I know, Will, it seems crazy, right? But
Makes too much sense, Frank.
but it makes sense, right? It's like we want to be reviewing something that it's going to get approved because everything has been put in place. But if you're trying to ask us to approve something the second time and we go like, yeah, great, this is beautiful. You've done everything we told you about. You researched it. And then you go to the ZBA and they go like, yeah, now 6 stories, 5 stories, 4 stories. And then the design changes. And then you got to come back to us. So I don't get that. So I would like to just put that out there. You know,
I would say things like that, Frank, do happen. We
I
generally
know they
we
do.
don't generally come back to you unless the ZBA wants your advice on something,
Oh,
and they
well,
send us back.
that would be bullshit. Then I would say, right, that your building changes and that the ZBA says, yeah, the Urban Design Commission doesn't need to look at it now that it's changed.
But to play Dan Bartman, like to some degree, that's saying you should play within the rules in the first place. The fact that you're not playing within the rules is going to make it take more time for you. So
Right, 100%, 100%, 100%, Andrew. 100%.
they chose to come up with some building that doesn't meet the zoning. That's for them to deal with.
Right. I'm just trying to help you, Adam, and trying to say, hey, find the path of least resistance. And I don't know which one that is, but we're going to continue. If you come back to us, we can like it, but you're going to come back here again. They say, talk to the ZBA, get that approval.
Nobody wants 7 years already, so Frank. Yeah. When do you think you'd be ready with something, Will? 23rd?
I mean, I'll be honest, there's so many things up in the air here. What am I doing? I mean, what am I designing to?
Yeah.
Because I don't mean to make this like a soapbox, but like
it's not a soapbox, but I think that
this is what we've been talking to the city about this for a while, and respect. Honestly, like this has been a big old circle, you know what? And I think that there needs to be more clarity on what is going to be okay, what path can we do, because to your point, if I got to pull the building back 12 feet, that's a major change.
I'm trying,
and I don't disagree with you, Andrew, at all. By the way, I'm just saying, like, this is the path we've been given. This is what we're told to do, and it does. This feels like we're just spinning wheels in the mud.
Right. So Will, we're trying to help you. We're trying to help you because
maybe a regime
you are correct. You are correct in that. You are correct in that. And Adam and Will, you guys should talk offline, and you should talk to the city. But that's my stand, and I think that Andrew supports that and made a really good point on all of those things. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it just doesn't make sense.
No, I respect your position and all that, but I mean, it may be that we end up just going forward with this. You say you don't like it, which is perfectly fine, and then we just go on from there and see where we go.
All right, you can do that.
It's been 7 years at this point. I mean,
I get it. Hey, I support you, Adam. Go for it.
We're just trying. The neighbors have been on us. If you watch the videos of those neighbor meetings,
but we don't have the neighbors don't design buildings, right? You know that, right? You know that.
I'm just saying, there's been overall frustration at the slow pace of the project.
I get it. But
yep. And
I know you don't see it, but we're trying to help.
I'm not saying that you're not. I just would like to get to the next step in the process to show forward momentum with the neighbors.
All right.
I mean, this has been
right. And based on that as well, Kit will follow up with Dan, our director, and also help clarify order of operations, whether or not this makes more sense to go to the ZBA first and have it approved and then come back to the UDC or vice versa. And that will also determine and dictate the time at which we will review this again.
Yeah. I'm just
Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Stella.
That's fine.
That's perfect.
In the meantime, you want to put us on for the 23rd?
I don't think Will likes that.
Well, the 9th, you like the 9th even less. So.
The 9th isn't happening, Adam. So.
Yeah, 23rd. Adam, the 23rd works for you and me because we're Jewish.
Yeah, well, I'm not going anywhere.
Contact Dan Bartman, that'd be great because he's ignored the last.
We can work for the agnostics too.
Lexi, did you want to say
I
something?
can add you to the 23rd agenda if you guys have the materials ready.
Yeah, and we'll let you know in advance if that won't work, but I at least want to put some deadline on it somewhere.
Yeah, as long as it's a week before and you send it to the UDC email, I can add it to the agenda in the packet.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll see what we have to talk to the client and talk amongst ourselves. And I guess we want to hear what Dan says because we've talked to Dan extensively about this project.
Yeah. And again, I'll just emphasize, Adam, that I don't think we're going to get a quorum on the 23rd of December.
I'm shocked we have one tonight, believe it or not. So.
Well, it's just Thanksgiving. It's not a Jewish holiday.
Understood. I'll be here on the 23rd, Frank.
I mean, because you love this, Tim. I know you do.
Great. And I know that you have to jump after this as well.
Yes, I do. I have to jump after this. I have to go pick up my daughter who's coming from college. So,
congratulations.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thanks,
Frank.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Adam and Will. And with that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda for 6 Wheatland Road.
That's mine as
Stella,
well.
can I ask
Yep.
that we take a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
We've been going for.
Motion on the
That
table
would
is to
be
recess
awesome.
for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
8:11. See you back.
Thank you.
UDC assemble.
Estella, for this one, can we promote Nelson de Oliveira and Evan Stellman?
Yes.
President McKim?
I think Evan's going to need permission to share a screen if he doesn't have it from earlier.
Yep, Lexi's on it.
Yeah.
So this is the design review for 6 Wheatland. Again, applicants, you have 20 minutes to present. This is for an MR3 apartment building, and we will be voting on facade, design guidelines, massing options, and any additional design guidance. So feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Adam Dash, 48 Grove Street, representing the applicant, which is NPO Properties LLC. With us is Nelson de Oliveira from NPO and Evan Stellman, KDI Architects. 6 Wheatland has a 2-story detached house on it. The property abuts, and you'll see the blank wall and loading dock of a commercial building at 273 Broadway. This is one house in from Broadway on Wheatland. There's a multiplex building across the street and a triple decker diagonally across the street on the other side. It's in the MR3 zoning district. The property is about 1 block from the coming redevelopment of the old Star Market site on Broadway, which is going to transform the neighborhood with new large buildings, a park, civic plaza, and retail storefronts, as you know. Evan, you want to show them what we got?
Sure. Thanks, Adam. So for the record, my name is Evan Stellman with an office address of 17 Ivalou Street in Somerville. We're proposing a 3-story structure containing 5 dwelling units on this site. This is our proposed site plan. Wheatland Street is on the right side, going top to bottom on the sheet. This gray hatch is the footprint of the proposed building. Along the street front, we have steps coming into the entrance on the left side. And then there's a ramp coming off of the driveway for ADA access into the first floor of the unit. On the right side, our building is set back 10 feet, which is required when you're abutting an NR zone, which the lot above us is. So we have a 10-foot driveway that extends from the street to the end of the building. And then towards the rear of the site, we have 4 covered parking spaces here, a 5th parking space that's not covered, some bicycle parking and trash storage, and then there's room for a transformer, a lawn, and some landscape at the rear of the site. Again, this is just our proposed site plan. I won't go over the graphic, but I do just want to point out that we will be going for a variance for the facade build out. And that's required because we want to meet that 10-foot setback because we're abutting in our zone. So for facade build out, we need an 80% facade build out. We're proposing 74.3. And we're also seeking a variance for the 5-foot landscape buffer at the right side of the site. These are just the proposed floor plans. I'll just quickly give you a rundown of the units. So unit 1 is a basement and first floor unit. It's about 1,800 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath. The second floor, it's divided in half. The front unit is 2-bed, 2-bath. Rear unit is 2-bed, 2-bath, and they're about 1,100 square feet. Third floor pretty much stacks with the second floor. 2-bed, 2-bath units. Again, about 1,100 square feet. This is our first facade option. This top elevation here is the street facing elevation. So this is what you would see from Wheatland Street. For this scheme, we're cladding the ground floor with a cementitious siding. We chose a blue color for the ground floor. And then for the upper 2 floors, we're choosing a lighter color cementitious shingle material. We have casement and fixed window assemblies, and we're breaking the base and second and third floors up with some mid bands here. This bottom elevation is the right side elevation. So this is where our driveway would be and access to the covered parking and bike parking. And then oh, sorry, I don't have the other 2 elevations. So this is our second facade scheme. The ground floor in this one is clad with a dark colored thin brick. The upper stories are clad with cementitious siding. We chose Hardy's iron gray color. And then the inset balconies and between the windows is clad with a larger exposure siding of an accent color. And then this is the right side elevation. Again, that thin brick wraps around the building and into the parking. And then the upper two stories are clad with cementitious siding. We chose a different casement style window that's broken up into three with simulated lights. And then this third facade option, this would be the preferred option. We broke up the front facing facade a little bit and we added this taller element that accentuates the entry point. And that's clad with a larger exposure cementitious siding. And then the second material here is a smaller exposure siding with that same large exposure siding between the windows. And then as we wrap around the right side, you can see cementitious siding. We have a PVC cornice wrapping the top of the building. And then that accent material siding wraps around into the covered parking area. And then these are all the schemes. This is the rear elevation shown on top and the left side elevation. So there's the existing single-story brick structure located to the left of our site that you can see massed in here. This bottom elevation, it's just the cementitious singles that wrap around the entire upper two stories, and then the PVC cornice that steps in at the top of the building. Facade option two, again, this is thin brick at the base and then cementitious siding at the upper two stories. On the left side elevation, we broke up the massing with some alternate color siding just to break down the overall mass that you can see in the first facade scheme. And then this is the preferred facade option. You can see this taller massing at the front of the building to accentuate the entry. And then again, we broke up the massing towards the rear of the site on the left side. The top elevation, again, it's cementitious siding, PVC trim and cornice, and then the accent material at some inset balconies. These are the proposed perspectives of the structure. This is Wheatland running from here towards the right of the sheet. So this is the view that you would see as you're coming down Wheatland. This is looking from opposite of the site, looking towards the proposed property. You can see the 2.5-story structure to the right of us. That's an NR zone. And then these two elevations, you kind of won't see them because there's structures back there, but we wanted to provide them to give a sense of the scale massing and materials. And then this is facade option two, the dark brick at the base, darker siding on the upper stories with the accent material between the windows and in the bays. And then finally, this is facade option three. We broke up the front, so it reads as two vertical elements. It's all clad with cementitious siding and PVC trims and cornice. And that's the three options we have for you. I think that's the end of the sheets that I have. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Adam? You're muted.
I wanted to show a photograph of the site because I think it's important to note the condition. You've got it in there in gray, but if you could stop sharing, maybe if I have the ability to share. Sure. I just have a photo of it because I think it's important to give the context that we're constructing in. If you can see that. So the house we're taking down is this one in the middle. You can see that where the Broadway is right here where the stop sign is on the other side of this brick building. And this is the loading dock for the brick building. And this goes way back, the strip of stores with zero windows, doors, nothing. That's why we're pushing the building all the way to the left, the new building, and trying to give these people a little more relief. It's a very narrow lot. As you can see, that's why we can't comply with the facade build out and the setbacks because we have a legally wide enough lot. We can't make a building on it that fits the facade build out. We're 3.5% off the requirement. It's pretty minimal. But just to give you some context, I think it's important to know what we're doing here and why it's shoved all the way to the left. Thank you.
Great. And any comments or questions from the members of the commission?
Yes, on this one, it seems that the variance application makes perfect sense. There's two regulations, and it's simply not possible to meet both of them in zoning ordinance.
Be required to provide parking?
I don't believe so.
In that sense, the parking is sort of what's driving it, though.
Well,
if we don't have a driveway that needs to access the back of the building, then we can
So-
achieve it.
For the facade build out variance, we would either need to go for a variance for the facade build out, or if we met the facade build out, we would need to go for a variance for the side yard setback to maintain 10 feet abutting an NR zone. So it's one or the other here.
It's the combo of narrow lot and abutting an NR zone that's causing the conflict. If it weren't abutting the NR zone, we wouldn't have the problem. We're an MR3. It's just those two things together, as Tim pointed out, cause some kind of, we're going to get whacked with something one way or the other, no matter pretty much what we do. But again, it doesn't really address the architectural design of the building is not really, it is what it is, except for the facade build out, which I said is only like 3.5% off required.
Does this building really need its own transformer?
Well, it's an all-electric building with parking. We've had similar size structures that required a transformer. We're just planning for one now. And if Eversource says that we don't need one, we'll take it out of the scope.
Are there setback requirements that apply to the transformer? Because that's within that
Yes.
10-foot zone. Is that correct?
Yes. I'll have to coordinate with Eversource, but we'll meet those requirements.
So the location that's shown on the plans now, does that meet the requirements?
I believe so. I believe so, but I'll double check on that.
Okay, I can go first, I guess. I don't have in terms of the landscape plan, it looks like the green score is a little bit clipped. Like usually I can see the percentages and I can see the total. It's not a big deal. But it'd be great to see that in its whole. It does just sort of jump out that it looks like a lot less planting than I typically see on projects that are achieving the green score. So I'd just like a little bit more information on that. It does look like you've achieved the 12-foot curb setback. And I do appreciate that you are not trying to tell me that the sweet gums are a large tree. I appreciate that. I think, just sort of suggest that the Somerville Pollinator Action Plan has some additional species that have greater ecological value than I think what's here. And I would definitely encourage the landscape architect to peruse this and maybe expand the palette a little bit more. And then the only other piece that I guess I would like to understand is the edge condition on the driveway north, whether or not there's any grade differentiation, or just because you are paving right up to the edge, I'd like to understand how that edge is supported and how that fence all works together. literally at the property line while trying to maintain a 10-foot pathway, because that's a lot to push onto that edge.
Okay, yeah, that's something that we can clarify.
Any other notes from the commission?
I guess just one other thing. Right now, your ramp is ending in the driveway. I guess I would ask to see if it could be studied to see if it could have a return to earn at the sidewalk so that people using it are not in conflict with cars coming up and down the driveway itself.
Yeah, that is something that we did look at. It's difficult because when
You're
we
right at
turn
8%.
here,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's within the curb setback, so it would have to be a sloped walkway. And then we would lose some plantings there, but that's not a huge deal. I can take a look to see if we can turn that ramp. But if that's not a possibility, would you be amenable to a vehicle notifier at the bottom of the ramp?
Something, or even if it's just a change in the paving material within that
Okay,
transition zone, something that just sort of signifies that this is a mixed area, I
sure.
think would just be helpful. It's just a little bit weird because it's a residential project, but there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Of course.
Any thoughts on their preferred facade and massing options?
I'm comfortable with the preferred option. Option 3.
Sounds great. Martin?
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, sounds like we are ready to vote. Let's see. So we have facade design guidelines, understanding that a variance is being applied for currently, and massing options, and then additional design guidance. So, can I get a motion for a vote on facade option 3?
A
So
motion.
moved.
Uh,
Seconded.
motion from Andrew, seconded from Mark. For a roll call vote, Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich,
Yes.
Tim Talon.
Yes.
Great. So this motion passes. The next is for that the design guidelines are met again with an understanding that they will be applying for a variance for facade build out or landscape buffer needs. Can I get a motion from the commission?
So moved.
Thank you, Martin. And a second?
Seconded.
Uh, Andrew beat you to it, Tim. And for a roll call vote, Andrew Arbaugh,
Yes.
tentative, but still yet nevertheless a yes.
Yeah, I sort of like just in the sense that like no, they've not been met, but they're asking for a variance. I still kind of struggle as to whether or not I just
Right.
say no and you guys are moving forward regardless anyway, knowing that that's what that means. I guess a tentative yes, but Martin and Tim, feel free to vote me down because I don't feel strongly, but I already had it come out of my mouth.
Yeah, and I can also, sorry, we're in the middle of a vote, but to take a pause from voting, I will confirm with Sarah as well on right order of operations for this type of conflict because we're seeing it twice and haven't seen it as much previously, but it would be good to get everyone on board.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point Andrew made. I mean, for consistency, it- I mean, I agree that it's meeting the design guidelines, but the project is seeking the variance.
Right.
And I would think the motion, as Estelle stated it, that meets the design guidelines and the understanding that the variance is being sought. I think that's
right.
Fair vote, and then you've logged that.
Right. So back to voting. Martin Pavlinich.
Yes.
Tim Talon.
Let's say yes, but there's going to be an asterisk next to this that says
yes. We will confirm on. So that motion also passes. And then massing options. Did we?
We don't need to do them for the size of this building.
Okay. And then for the additional design guidance, I have confirmed transformer needs, that the KDI team will also look at an expansion of the planting palette per Somerville Pollinator Action Plan guidelines and recommendations, clarify the hardscape as it meets the sidewalk edge, and then lastly also study the ramp as it ends in a driveway and the paving material in this transition zone. Are there any other design guidelines that we'd like to add to this motion? Nope. Right. So can I get a motion from the commission members?
A motion.
Thank you, Andrew. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Martin. Roll call vote. Andrew Arba.
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich.
Yep.
And Tim Talon.
yes.
Great. And so this item is also passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Adam. And
Thank you,
then
everybody.
we will move to the last item, or I guess the last two, because from my understanding, these are paired.
Yes.
It will be for the review of 101 Highland Ave and 107 Highland Ave.
Correct. So we got pretty much, I guess, almost everybody left probably. So you're going to be promoting Dave Kadish and Lewis Kraft and Vladimir Benoit. Who else?
And Chris. We have Chris Fee.
I guess, is there anybody else you want, Dave, that's Vladimir's needs to be, and Dave Kadish? And is there anyone else who's with you, Dave?
Chris Fee, please.
Chris Fee. Okay.
And those who will be needing presenter access?
Lewis.
Great. And then again, as a final reminder, you all will have 20 minutes to present once you get access to presenting.
Yeah. I was told we were going to get 20 minutes each because these buildings go together. You really can't take them apart. So we were going to present them together.
Yes.
You can't have one set of design lines guidance for one building and one for the other. It doesn't work that way. So
right.
Yeah. So anyway, Adam Dash, 48 Grove Street, representing the Somerville YMCA, and here's Vladimir Benoit, Executive Director of the Y. Dave Kadish and Lewis Kraft are from Stantec, which are the project architect team. And this project has been filed as two applications: one for a new YMCA building, community center, and the other for an all affordable residential building, which is the one at 107, and the Y is at the 101 Highland. And as the two buildings work together, as I said, we're going to present them together. We've already had a lot of process. The city council's already changed the zoning for this property, all these properties to allow for this project. We've already been through the demolition review process for them with Historic Preservation Commission, and there is no delay there. We've met with various groups in the community, and we've held our neighborhood meeting. So there's been, and you may have seen this in the news as well, there's a lot going on. It's a very exciting project to replace the Y with a modern, you get rid of our 100-something-year-old Y with a modern facility, plus a historic affordable housing. So I guess next is Vladimir going, or are you, Dave?
It's Lewis Kraft.
Oh, sorry. Lewis.
Yep, Senior Associate with Stantec Architecture, and I'm going to take it away. As Adam mentioned, we do have a double-wide presentation here, but we're going to present it all as one. And even though we might have 40 minutes of presentation time, we do not want to take that all up tonight. We want to get as close as possible to 20. We might go a little bit over, but we will endeavor for brevity. And with that, What I'd like to do again, this is the project team. I will be joined tonight in presenting by Chris Fee, Principal of Stantec Landscape Architecture, and the team that Adam has introduced is here with me as well. I did want to cede the floor for just a quick minute or so for Vlad, President of the Somerville YMCA, to just give a little bit of context for why we're at this crucial juncture for the Somerville Y.
Thanks, Louis, and thanks everyone for allowing me to really discuss this project with you. Our RY has been a cornerstone in this community for over 150 years, but our current facility, though full of history, is no longer is meeting the needs of the people we serve. It's not handicap accessible, which means today we're failing to serve all of our community members, seniors, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and families seeking inclusive spaces who deserve access to health and wellness. And our city's evolving, so are the needs of our residents, and the demand for modern, inclusive, well-centered programming has never been greater. Whether from youth development and teen support to chronic disease and mental health resilience. So what you're going to see today is really our commitment to Somerville's future, a campus designed not just for today, but for future generations, a place where every resident can belong, grow, and thrive. So tonight, we're really asking for your support for an essential first step. And I think with it, we move closer, one step closer to turning this vision to a reality. And this is personal to me, as this is a why that's helped me avoid several left turns growing up, and I would not be here today if it was not for the why. So I can assure you that everyone on this team is fully committed to really seeing this get done. Thanks, Louis.
Thanks so much, Vlad. Thanks for your words there. So the design team is going to give a little bit of development context, and then obviously we'll be moving through massing and facade options. So I believe that everyone here on the call is going to be very familiar with the site. So I'll be brief to say that the site's location at the intersection of School and Highland, we really see this building as a civic building that is part of the Central Hill Civic Campus. It really serves the same community members and obviously a very important part of the city of Somerville. It has great transit access with the community path and Gilman Square T station, and is just a really exciting spot for this project. The existing site use, you all again are probably familiar first off with 101 Highland Ave, the main YMCA building. It is flanked by employee parking on both sides currently, and there is a child care building at 97 Highland. And the team is also, the project team has also acquired 136 School Street, rounding out the available properties for this development. The adjacent uses, starting on the north to Madison Street, are primarily homes and apartments, single and multifamily. Along Highland Ave on the other side is a mix of commercial, homes and apartments, and multifamily, and we're really scaling up to the west along Highland on the north with multi-story multifamily buildings, and then obviously flanked by City Hall across School Street. These are the existing site photos. We can return to these as need be here, but this gives you some idea of the character of this site and the intersection. Just a quick brief about zoning. I think this time of night, none of us want to dive deep into zoning, so I will just give you all the highlights of this is MR6 zone. These are for both lots. The commercial or community center lot, which is the YMCA function building, and then MR6 for the YMCA residential, and that has an affordable housing overlay, which allows to go to 7 stories, 88 feet max, and has the dimensional 5% dimensional give associated with that. It is 6 stories and 85 feet for MR6 commercial. Along Highland Ave, we have a curb setback, we have a minimum and maximum setback, and we also have a 10-foot step back as well. So there's a lot happening within that zone. There are rear yard setbacks where the site abuts the Madison Street properties in the neighborhood residential district. We do not have any rear yard setbacks where we're abutting the urban residential district. There are along School Street secondary frontage, the same type of setbacks described along Highland Ave, and then there are no set or step backs required at 95 Highland, this corner lot, which is zoned MR6, and the urban residential lot to the west. This graphic just really shows that this is the program that we're going to be showing you later in blue. This is not a massing option, but just shows the size and scale of the proposed program within the overall massing envelope that's outlined in black here. I did just want to mention here quickly with the Highland Ave minimum and maximum setbacks and also the step back that are all required by zoning. We actually have a very small zone that the primary facade of Highland Ave needs to live. We got about 2 feet with which zoning will let us fall. So we've obviously given as much space within that so that we get a little bit of landscaping in front, which Chris Fee will review with us later. This just shows that overall massing and its context. This is obviously like other civic buildings along Highland Ave. It has prominent views both up and down Highland Ave, from Gilman Square at the bottom of the hill, and then obviously still from I-93 as well, similar in kind to the other buildings along the Central Hill spine. Here is a program diagram with the community center building on the right and the YMCA building on the left. And this is just showing the overall program and relationships and the rough sizes for each. I'm not going to get into any detail here, but just want to show that, as Vlad mentioned, we're not only improving existing YMCA offerings with this building, but expanding upon that. So there is an expanded aquatic center here, a basketball court, multi-sport court, fitness center offerings, childcare, community and classroom spaces, and that's all supported by an employee parked garage below. On the residential building, there's a Y program component of a healthy food component that would be fronted onto Highland Ave, lobby space, and then 100% affordable residential. So all of the existing short-term affordable residential that is on site is going to be replaced and expanded on. So we're going to have up to about 60 units of 100% affordable housing, and that's going to be a great increase both in the scope and the quality of those offerings. So we have a couple representative plans. What I'm going to do is move through this quickly, and then at the end of this, guys, we can return to this and we can talk about detail and function of all this. But at its basic level, starting on the right-hand side along Highland Ave, the community center is entered off of Highland Ave. You enter directly into a double height glass lobby space that immediately connects you to the circulation spine. At the ground level, you can matriculate through the support spaces and into the aquatic center, which is double height and located on the ground floor. Along School Street, we have required frontage along School Street that we need to front. So that's this dogleg that you see that would be the entrance to the below grade employee parking, and has some of the services, trash service, and also some of the functional adjacencies for the site. Moving up along Highland Ave, the residential entrance to the building is set back off the street a little bit further so that there's a little bit of a forecourt and some dimensionality for the residential entry, with the healthy food program accessed directly off the street. Moving up in the building, for the community center, there's which is showing the basketball court, all of the childcare and all of the Y functions that are known and loved and are getting expanded upon. They're not demised here, but are located on this level. And then this shows you the overall disposition of the affordable units, which will all have bathrooms and kitchens, and are generally, to meet the needs of this population, are 1-bedroom studio and compact or micro units. Moving up further in the building, you see that the building is starting to step back along with the required zoning step backs, affording us an outdoor track, which our landscape architect will talk about, an outdoor program, but then additional sports, fitness, and flexible programming and community spaces up above. This is a cross section, so School Street is on your right. That again just shows the overall stacking of the spaces. This would be for the community center once you move past the double height lobby space, which is roughly located here, but shows the double height aquatics, basketball court with interior track, outdoor running track, and multipurpose sport court, and then the stacking of the residential building. So getting in a little bit, pause for a drink. Getting into the massing development, before we go through our massing concepts, we just wanted to give a little bit of a look behind while we're starting a project. Before we get going, we like to have a concept development session where we get a broad swath of both team members inside and outside of our organization to talk about a project like this, like what the why means to them. And you're not allowed to bring any architectural representations, just your ideas. And one of the ideas that really rose to the fore was the concept of movement. And there's really a nice metaphor both about social movement within the YMCA, but also literally all the different kinds of movements that the community space like this houses. So all of our massing and facade concepts are linked to this overall concept. So for our three massing concepts, I will, Adam wants me to mention right off the top of the bat that the YMCA Community Center is not required to have three massing options. The residential building is. We're presenting these all as one for y'all because we're really thinking about these all together, and they're really important to be thought of. So while we may not need a vote for the three massing options, we do want your feedback for this. So the three options, the first, diversity of movement, is a residential and multi-use massing that has complementary but distinctly separate massing moves. The second option, starting block, which has sort of a delicate sliding massing motif, gradually expanding across the facade, has a similar conceptual move, that sliding boxes, but is a little bit different for each, the residential and the community center building. And then our third option, the action line, is a unified massing concept running across both buildings. So massing option one has an expanding facade break that moves across the building facade. Here you're seeing the expression of the double height lobby space. In this option, the glazing turns in and opens up to 95 Highland here on the corner, and a squared off cornice top at the roof. For the residential building, you're noticing a very small as we can pull facade step that differentiates the massing of the residential from the community center building with those expanding facade breaks that move across. So that's massing option one. Massing option two, the starting block that has this expanding and overlapping facade massing motif that is expanding and moving larger up Highland in one direction and down Highland in the other, culminating in the double height lobby expression. It is also expressed along the roof line of the building where you have the building step back, and so you're peeling away from those corners and the running track up above. This shows some of these facade options moving up Highland, so that expanding motif that runs horizontally across the community center building is then stepping back and stepping in very slightly along the residential building as well. And then you're also seeing at the main entry, we were sort of treating that with this option as being more closed off to the 95 Highland along the corner. Option two. Option three, the design and projects team's preferred massing option. This has a unified action line massing object. Think of this as the swing of the racket, the kick of the leg. It's that big, bold, dynamic move that serves to not only unify the facade across the residential and the community center building, but create a very clear base middle top with a pedestrian level base to the building that is fully open along Highland Avenue. Creating a motif that is not only dynamic and meant to reflect the energy, but also creates moments of a little bit of tension and compression in the middle block, but then opening up and leading the user to the entries on either side, and then bending up towards the Civic Center of Highland, or sorry, of the Central Hill campus. And then the last thing that we just want to mention here is then that motif is echoed across the cornice line of the building up above, which we think will be a nice feature for when the building is viewed at distance. So this is massing option 3. Facade development. Kind of our way into the facade development was to really think about our facade options as being part of that civic campus, as we mentioned. And what is most important to us is, even as we are looking at more contemporary design expressions across the facade, that we use the masonry language, the masonry tone and materiality potentially across any of the facade options that we're exploring. So that's what we really think will help to bind this project to the core, along Highland Avenue. So we have 3 facade options that work within this construct. The first being a brick masonry that is a gradient rhythm brick rain screen moving across the facade. The second is a fiber cement or a glass fiber reinforced concrete facade that has a large format rhythmic facade with a flexible jointing pattern. And the third being a terracotta profile that uses the terracotta module to create a fabric that allows for the different types of openings that are really needed for the different types of spaces in between, and is adjusting and carving away at this cornice line above. So here is option A, the brick masonry, and what you're going to see probably looks like a color variant of the facade as it's coming across with the brick, but is actually an alternation of a base brick and then an accent brick, which is set in and recessed in a different gradient pattern across the site. So this would be the main lobby expression for all of the openings here, and I'll explain a little bit for each option, but it tended to be a seamless, very opening and very welcoming ground level that is really connecting everyone to the functions within, and you're able to see right into the ground level and connect with the circulation spine of the building and view that across the building. Brick masonry up above. That brick masonry is carried across the base. So here you're starting to see the expression of the materiality, but also the massing, where you have the entrance to the public component first and foremost along the base. And then you're really creating this nice kind of forecourt entry for the residential users. And then they are coming in, and the building massing is stepping up above. This shows you a little bit of the detail associated with the entry. It is picking up on the overall motif of that action line, but it is now swooping in plan, drawing the user in, and then creating a canopy element without sticking too far out across the street edge. You're also seeing here the cornice line bending across the top of the building. The way that this works essentially is that the facade is partially built up above the roof line, and so you have partial screen element behind it, and then obviously a facade parapet that is built up in that curving motion. Option B, large format fiber cement. One of the things that is most important for this team is for this project to be able to accommodate all the different uses within. And so we need a facade system that is really adjustable and kind of can speak to the different uses and allow for different levels of light in different uses. So the aquatic center is here in the building, and it's actually bisected in all of these options by full glazing down at the bottom that will have a glass frit on it, but then the opportunity for these individual portal lights in the upper levels of the aquatic center. This is followed by the basketball gym here, the multi-sport court, and then your stack of lobby, childcare, fitness, and community spaces up above. Here, moving up the building, we have a simplified corrugated facade along the residential building that still keeps a simple rhythm and just picks up with a aluminum reveal break along that building. Similar treatment to the building's entry. We have an access point coming back to the building here for Eversource in the back of the building, which is why we're not showing any landscape on this side of the building, but we wanted to create a nice forecourt and entry space through here. He looks over at the time and we'll keep moving on. This shows a little bit of the character of this facade type that would have different finish levels, both a matte and a semi-matte, and then a grooved above. So for all of these options, we want to have depth and reveal within the facade elements. We know we have a lot of program inside that we need to accommodate. So our facade system needs to have some depth and character built in associated with that. Finally, the third and preferred option is the use of a terracotta profile, whether this is actually a terracotta module or this is a texture-coated metal profile that would be just very similar in texture to terracotta. It's using that modular system in different widths and configurations to get that weave and texture across the facade with some very clear facade breaks along the face of the building. Another thing that I wanted to mention with this massing option was that we are turning the glass around the corner partially, but not all the way back to the building. We had some discussion right about 95 Highland about whether it made sense to have a full wall and wall that off or turn some of the glazing in. So there's some transparency around that corner, that front yard. But we did in this option step back the building twice. There's no required set or step backs along this the side of this building, but we do really think that it's important to create some relief and some consideration there. So you're seeing those double step backs along 95 Highland. We have a simple grid fiber cement facade that also picks up with the reveal section here and brings you all the way to a little bit of an end moment here at the corner. And then that is reflected up at the upper level of the building with a bend that jumps across the gap between the buildings, creating an overall motif. Here again, you're showing this character. Another thing that I just wanted to mention, we're trying to sprinkle in little parts that are in all parts of the facade options. There is at the base a little bit of facade fins that gradually get a little bit deeper as you're moving across the facade to accentuate and give a little bit of character to this very taut, glassy facade. And those eventually dissolve and turn into a glass frit, which would allow light, but a level of visual privacy for the ground level aquatic center because we have just a limited zone for planting in the front. Looking up School Street, simplified facade along School Street with just a simple fiber cement board facade. That this would be the entry into the below grade parking, and then you're seeing the cornice line that would be visible from Gilman Square and 93. And then this is the view from the corner, looking at 95 Highland in the corner. This is a building that we've been in contact with. The project team has been in contact. They know that this building is coming. They are committed neighbors, and we're committed to being great neighbors to them for this housing that is on the corner. And that means, and it be kind of shown in the next rendering, limiting as much as we can any openings along the facade here and pushing the openings up higher to the building. We think with the program we can work with that, but having a facade language that doesn't have, moving back, a perceived back as it's moving into the corner, but really has that feature facade kind of wrapping around into the corner before transitioning to a more simplified dogleg along School Street. This is the overall view. I'm going to kick it over here to Chris V, and I think we're going to probably return to some of these images later, but obviously this is a good look at the overall massing. There is an element of historic preservation associated. The project team has been in front of least 5 sessions with the Historical Preservation Committee, and we will be preserving 7 primary building elements that will come over and be displayed in prominent areas in the new building. The most important of these being that this building entablature, which will be recreated and reproduced in a similar size format and going to be hung inside the main lobby. So there's going to be a juxtaposition of the new, but being able to see the history of the old and right behind the glass, and kind of layering those stories on top of each other. So this is kind of a night view again, that shows the character of the openings and how how that's reflected upon the massing concept. Mr. Fee.
Thank you. So continuing on with that toward pace. So we're going to start on Highland Ave at the southeast corner. You can see we have the main entrance to the YMCA. We're creating a small plaza with a sculptural bench that helps flow users to the main entrance and provides some seating for pickup and drop off. We are proposing a sidewalk and furnishing zone along the Highland Ave frontage, designed per Somerville's design guidelines, with a 6-foot furnishing zone and 6-foot wide sidewalk. As Lewis mentioned, there's a small planted buffer between the building and the sidewalk. It'll be planted with lower growing shrubs and perennials to create a small green buffer between the building and the sidewalk. So within the furnishing zone, you can see that the large tree on the lower right is a really nice substantial street tree that we intend to save. While the rest of the street trees along Highland are not in great shape. Several of them appear to be dead or dying. And so we're proposing that they be replaced with new street trees, spaced a little bit closer together. We are also proposing some bike racks in that furnishing zone. So moving west, the double doors, the main entrance to the residential building, set back off the sidewalk with a small entry plaza. The west side of the site is fully paved, facilitates egress and access to the rear yard, which is shared open space for the residents to use. This area will have some seating built in. We planted to enhance the space and create some screening for the neighbors, contributing to the green score. So moving east, there's a fence and gate on top of this set of stairs that separates the residential zone from the YMCA space. The YMCA space is programmed similarly to the residential area, some limited built-in bench seating, but mostly open to allow for flexibility for the wide program the space. Continuing east, we're maintaining a narrow paved pathway that provides accessible egress, fire access to the north side of the building. And then there's a fence and gate at the end of that walkway to limit access from the street. Coming on to School Street frontage, we have the vehicular entrance to the parking garage. And for the streetscape treatment, we're just maintaining that width of sidewalk, the existing sidewalk, to keep continuity with a small paver strip for some interest. I guess I'll also note that we are proposing fence on all 3 sides of the building that abut neighbors. That's the site. Yep, next slide. So yeah, skipped over the design ideas, but getting to the roof deck, we have a multi-use roof deck. So outside the building, there's a track. We're incorporating some benches and planters for usability and to bring some green up there. And then beyond the track on the northeast corner, we have a green buffer at the perimeter using modular planters, and then a flexible program in the middle of the space, possibly using movable planters to break up the space that's needed for YMCA program.
All right, and with that, unless Dave, I missed something critical that we need to mention right now, we will turn it over to the commission for your questions, comments, and discussion.
I don't know that I have any questions. If anyone else does, before we move on to discussion.
Just one. Can you talk a little about the School Street frontage? You mentioned that there's a zoning requirements that apply to build out there. Is that influencing kind of the massing? That long school.
Yes, it is. The first three floors, this is a secondary frontage that has a 65% that's required to be within the setback zone, which would be 2 feet to 15 feet of the property line there. So
Okay. And that has a 3-story minimum. So that's basically
it does.
information we
Yep.
need
And
to.
and yep. And there's a garage ramp here, and then there is a transformer alcove above,
Okay.
and then program above that.
I have a question actually. In the first facade option where you're proposing brick, is any of that brick going to be recycled from the original building? Or are there talks for recycling any of that brick?
Not at this time. No, there's kind of the level brick that we'd be able to get from the existing building. Um, once you go through demolition, might be prohibitive. I mean, that is something that the design team could consider. I don't think it's something we've had an extensive conversation about, but we want to have a level of control, but also trust that that we could achieve something like that. It's a nice
Right.
thought. So, if this ends up being a path that we go down, that would be something we would think about.
We've looked at this in the past, and the buildings almost always have asbestos on them, and then you can't actually get it off the brick.
Yes, we've had similar run-ins as well, but haven't definitively gone down that path, with the white building.
Cool. Do we want to get into it?
Please.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna, I guess maybe just guess at Tim's comment. The dog leg that's showing up on School Street, it definitely, so I'd say generally speaking, I think the building looks really good, and I'm excited to have this. And especially, I mean, the existing building is super, super, super gross on the inside. The pool is nasty. So very excited about the program, very excited about affordable housing. The dog leg definitely is kind of the one piece of the building that to me feels like it's being designed by zoning rather than logic. And it would be, I think, great to see that particular piece of the building made just somehow more friendly. It feels like it feels like the batteries not included moment from that movie from the 80s where the building is kind of attacking the nice holdout building. And anything that could be done to scale that down or make it feel separate from the more logical mass of the building, I think would be incredibly helpful. In terms of the landscape, I understand the restrictions in terms of the setbacks on Highland Avenue. I do feel like a lot of the program that you have in the back of the building, again, I understand the constrictions within zoning. It would be great if zoning could acknowledge that this is a civic building and allow a greater amount of space on the front of the building to absorb some of that programming, because it does feel a little bit like I like the gesture of the swoop. I like the gesture of the main entry, and I definitely understand it within the swoop of the facade. It feels a little insubstantial for the scale of this building on Highland Avenue, especially compared to the scale of the civic space in the adjacent high school, the Central Hill complex. That doesn't feel like it's in the same kind of modus of that, and it's strictly just based on the amount of space that it's being given within the height of that building. I'll let the architects get into it. I like the swoop. I think it's really cool. I like the terracotta. I think that makes a lot of sense, and we've seen that done successfully in Cambridge in a couple different situations now. I think that the swoop is so strong that I do kind of wish that the window patterning was a little bit more regular, just because I find myself looking up to the window patterning and the irregularity of it as opposed to the swoop. And the swoop is really, really cool. That's all I got.
Yeah, just to second the dog leg thing, that especially the relationship with 95 Highland, it's I really appreciate all the thought you've put into being, as you said, good neighbors and cooperating with them. But there's just, just the simple this shot especially, like it is looming from all sides and it would be a little bit, yeah, I mean, again, totally agree with Andrew. It's clearly a zoning thing and not something you would avoid if possible. But if there's some way to not just absolutely like loom over this poor house would be tremendous. It's funny because for in terms of the facade, I actually really like um the second option myself. I think for whatever reason, I totally I take Andrew's comment about the irregularity of the windows taking away from um the swoop, but I do think there's something about this one where, especially if the window sizing and placement is sort of indexed to the interior program, that I find very compelling as a sort of way to make the inside legible to on the street. So I'm quite a big fan of both. So I'm not really looking to pit one against the other, but just yeah, I think this one has a lot going on for it for me. I like it a lot. Um, but yeah, for me, yeah, so that's my comment on the facade. But yeah, again, just that 95 Highland is getting enveloped by this thing, and so it would be great to see how to give it some relief.
Yeah, I think I agree. Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate this whole team for getting the project this far. This is going to be a great thing for Somerville. I'm really excited to see this project continuing to move forward. Um, I, I agree with the portion. It sticks out facing the portion facing on School Street. And I think perhaps one of the things that could be looked at is if 3 stories is the minimum, does that want to be a 3-story piece and really feel like an addition to this building? Perhaps something that really is different, but that's more in keeping with the scale of the other buildings along School Street, which are all 3 stories. I mean, there could be a reveal between that piece and the main body of the building, so it really feels like something that's distinct. I think another thing that jumps out, and now understand that there's transformers on the second level. So that's like 2.5 stories of blank facade, both facing 95 Highland, but also facing out onto School Street as well. It would benefit from, I think, the same level of detail and refinement that you're putting into the main body of the building. And so on the main body of the building, I think the swoop is a really interesting architectural approach. I love what you're doing with the entry, bringing the entry. It feels gracious, it feels welcoming. Um, Working within the constraints of the setbacks along Highland, providing that relief at the entry and the setback of that door is really important, and having the bench outside there. So love that. But then when thinking about the actual program that's inside of there, it makes a ton of sense. Next to this 2-story lobby, this gathering space, I imagine there's things going on there. There's events, there's people inside, there's people waiting to get whatever. But as you get farther down Highland, it's facing in on the pool. And is the intent that it's continuous vision glass all along the sidewalk facing in onto the pool?
No, it transitions from vision glass to vision glass with a frit, and so the frit will fill in. So there's a level of privacy. But one of the biggest changes right now is the pool, which sounds like all of you are familiar with the current pool and the amount of light that we're getting, and bringing light into the new pool. So we're trying to play the game, Tim, of getting light in, but still allowing a level of privacy into looking into the aquatic center.
So that it makes sense from a program perspective. I worry a bit about the one that it'll feel like a continuous strip of glass, and realize this architectural concept of the swoop, because it's going to feel pretty different when you have kind of translucent glass and the vision
Yeah,
glass.
we're gonna translate the gradient. We're going to fade it out once we get to the edges of the pool, so that you obviously you get more of a blend out there.
Okay. Okay. So my other comment about swoop is the similarity between the entrances in the residential building and the main body of the YMCA. I think it makes sense as an architectural concept, this thing that kind of comes down and then opens up to either end. But a residential lobby, an entry into someone's home is very different than the entry, this kind of civic entry into the Y. And I wonder, it is a different geometry, but I wonder whether there's a different treatment of that entry. Does that really want to be the glass box, or does it want to
Yeah.
feel like something that's different than the rest of this very civic piece?
Yeah, I think it absolutely could have some more solid elements to it and a little bit of a different character, and that would work with the overall motif. Right now the main entry for the community center is on that glass face and part of that glass face, and this is intentionally supposed to be something set apart and a little bit different. And I think the detailing of that could represent that a little bit more, as you just spoke to.
Yeah.
Tim, so we reviewed like the Broadway Break project down on like Lower Broadway near Sullivan. My understanding on that one, and you are definitely more adept on the code, is that the buildings really were supposed to look different. When it got this long, it's supposed to, and to me it feels pretty continuous at the street level. I think it's doing the break when you get above it, but not so much at the street level, and that feels like it's not meeting the design guidelines.
I mean, I think it's a good point. There's a number of design guide. Well, there's the main body of the facade, but then there's also a number of design guidelines that talk about kind of repetitive storefronts.
Yeah, I mean, something that we could maybe have shown a little bit better is just that the change in character along that base. We understand that it's a glass base all the way across, right? And that the break is a lot stronger above. And to try to get that to work within an overall language and have change. So we not only have the gradient that fades in at that transition point and then fades back out, but then we have fins on the SSG, thin fins that start at 1 inch deep and grow up to 4 inches deep. So then you have some more solid character at each end. So there is a transition both in the swoop line and in the detail character of the base, and that might not show as clearly at these.
But even with that, like my understanding is that like the building does not want it to read as continuous at that ground level, and the fact that the swoop is continuous across the two buildings, like even if we're treating the facade slightly different, the actual guidelines do not want you to do that, which I think it looks very nice. I'm just noting we've looked at other projects before where this has become a sticking point. And the city has been pretty assertive that this is not what they want. But
Well,
like I
I
said,
wonder if there's a way to, because I like the overall concept of the swoop and it being a way for these two pieces to relate to each other. But then there's another level of refinement of the base that helps differentiate the components. And I think you've talked about a couple of strategies. It's the variation of the frit, maybe the spacing of the mullions, the fin depth, whatever that is. I think helping us understand that maybe in a little more detail would be helpful. But then there's also the healthy food store component too, which also seems a little different than the more civic component, because that is probably going to want to have a signage band. It's going to want to have a different presence on the street. So maybe that's another opportunity to maintain the overall idea of the swoop and carry it through, but change that portion of the storefront, or refine it in a way that makes it distinct.
Understood. I think, with showing a little bit more and then maybe thinking a little bit more about the refinement, our hope is maybe we can get to the point where, the commission feels that the spirit, if not the letter of that stipulation, is met and can, kind of help us make the case as need be that this is in greater service of the overall project and the overall facade along Highland Ave. But we
I'd say
definitely owe you a bit more.
if this was a mixed-use building along the street and there were a bunch of retail storefronts and it was just continuous glass, we'd say absolutely not. But I think it is a civic building, and because of that, I think exactly what you're describing. The goal is to read the spirit of the regulations into it. A couple other comments as well. I think Andrew made the comment about the open space. I understand you have a lot of program, it's a limited site. To a certain extent, it does feel cramped right there. So, maybe it's just a function of our zoning and the limitations of the site. But I wish there were a little more flexibility for at-grade open space. The upper stories of the building. Can you go to the image with the track on it?
Sure.
The relative purport, there's a nice proportion between the glass piece and its changing height in the first, what appear to be kind of 3 stories here. But I wonder if there's a way to soften or kind of reduce the apparent mass of the upper portion of the building, because it feels very similar to the lower portion in terms of overall bulk. One idea, and I'm just throwing this out there as an idea for you. But if you go to the plan that shows the track, and I just thought of this when looking at it. It feels very constrained at the corners where the track comes around the corner, like you're basically running right against the corner of the building. What if these upper story, you have the idea of carrying the curve across the elevation on the lower stories. What if in plan you would have curved these corners here? And you see that on a lot of kind of upper story penthouses and other buildings like that. But carry that curve around the corner it would be a lot better for the track, creating a kind of continuous area around that, sight lines around the corner, and maybe that helps soften the uppers as well, reduce its apparent bulk.
Yeah, it's something that the team thought about, and we would love to indulge that further. We are in the zone where we have a minimum but maximum setback and a maximum step back. And so basically all of these faces need to move in to be zoning compliant, which we are in all our major dimensional, can only move and wiggle within what's essentially a 2'4" zone, right? So if we sculpt the upper to be zoning compliant significantly, then the bottom needs to move along with it and all the attendant things. So it's a delicate, it's a delicate thing. I'm not saying that there's room for zero shaping, but we're more in the realm of sort of the perception of the mass, and maybe looking at how our detailing could address that than larger scale massing moves, at least right now. But I do hear you, and it's certainly a point that these larger openings at the top of the building, while they do kind of reinforce a very clear energy and movement, having those larger openings might give the scale up the scale a little bit of the read of those upper buildings. So maybe even thinking about how that's fenestrated without getting too complex, but breaking that down a little bit also might be an area that we could consider to soften the overall feel of the mass.
Well, if it's just a technical zoning constraint that's presenting something like that, I would love for the planners and the case planners to work with this team to make sure our zoning is not unnecessarily constraining the design team. But agree with you about the fenestration. I think that could be, maybe it's looking at. For me, for the lower story facade options, I'm maybe between. I think there's value in everything everyone said. Martin's comments about the program reading through, I think, are really good ones. This one feels like maybe it's trying a little too hard to feel like a multi-story, commercial building, something when it's not really what's going on the other side. But whether it's brick or terracotta, I think the way I'm actually drawn to option A in a way, and I think not so much because of the scale of your openings. It does feel like perhaps the scale of the solid brick pieces and the windows is too large. But I think just the simplicity of it, and the regularity of it, it feels like it relates more to what's going on below. But I think whether it's brick or terracotta, I think you have ideas for the use of those materials, both of those materials, which are good.
Okay. So I'm hearing A or C, and I think Martin, you are B or C, and Andrew,
So,
you are C.
so super clear.
Well,
It's
they
a
all like
it's a
C.
design review, yeah.
They all like C. That's the common denominator.
I honestly kind of like to.
So I wonder if maybe a way forward is to, I mean, I think one of the things maybe that everyone's drawn to on C is the smaller scale. It feels, again, this is a big building for this street, I'll just say it.
Mhm.
But there's variation across it in A that I'm drawn to, kind of the larger to the smaller. And I think you're doing something like that in a more subtle way on the ground level as well. Is there a way to carry that through C as well with being deliberate about what openings are where, thinking about what programs on the other side. So if there's a basketball court on the other side of it, maybe the opening is larger. Whereas if there's a daycare, the opening should be smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're certainly on every facade option trying to build that variability, and while it might not look it is sort of the amount that we're bunching together. We also have to, like, for some of the program elements like basketball and things like that, we actually need to keep a lot of our windows above above the ground, so we're not hitting that as well. So building that flexibility into the facade was really important to the design team. That is trickiest with this. What I agree, Tim, is overall the simplest facade, right? Is to just hit a geometry and run with it, right? But this is probably the option where the indoor programming, the fenestration is more subservient, let's say, to the exterior facade design, and we obviously want to be really mindful of the different uses behind, as you just described. So you can see different ways that the team is looking at addressing that, and being able to place windows in the right area, and even potentially be flexible at a small scale as we get more definite in the future about exactly what's happening with the program behind, right? And maybe pulling some of these up as need be. So having a facade that can work with us while the project develops, obviously through documentation, would be really beneficial to the project. So something like B that has probably max or most variation associated with it could obviously be, adapted to facade C, which does have, this rhythm of the facade breaks, associated with it, which, Tim, as you mentioned, was something that was built into the base, and obviously is expressed at the top of the building, which will work to refine the top of the building and calm down the massing impact a little bit.
Yeah. Do you feel like that provides you enough direction to, I mean, I guess thinking about next steps, if you come back to us again, I would be comfortable seeing you synthesizing the comments that you've heard and coming back with one rather than three facade options.
Okay.
Um, does that seem, does it seem like we've provided enough feedback to do that?
Yes, yes, it has, and I think the focus as well, not just on this facade, but on the impact of the dogleg on the school street facade, will be an area of focus. And it sounds like the commission understands that that the massing of the building, we can't move away from the baseline zoning, or the project team doesn't want to, but there's obviously areas where, again, the detailing and refinement of the dog leg we can certainly address. We had a long internal conversation, right, about how primary to make this facade, right? And how much to draw one's attention to it rather than to be a calmer background building. And obviously we didn't go all the way to a primary facade language, partially because we've got a lot of unique program elements that we need to work in. But we can we have and can continue to sort of study the scale and the fenestration of this so that it does feel like there's some batteries included on this one.
Excellent reference.
But it sounds like we are ready to vote on.
Just a
Sure,
little bit more detail
please.
on the streetscape too. If we could zoom in a little bit more just in terms of the details once we get in there. We've seen much smaller projects this evening that have told us about plant species, that have told us about sections, things
Yep.
like that. So just kind of understanding a little bit more what the actual materiality of that is. And I would say the plan is really trying to show some variation, to show some design on that front. And the streetscape feels very sort of regular the entire way. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for those two to speak to each other a little bit more directly.
Thanks. Yes.
Great. So, any other comments before we move to vote on facade design guidelines, massing options, and additional design guidance?
I think I think we're motioning to continue. I think we provided a number of feedback on a number of things, and we'd like to see the project come back and address those.
Okay. So the motion on the table is to have the design team come back with taking all of this information another time so that we review, or the commission reviews. Do we need just one option that synthesizes all of them? I know that it sounds like at least the massing has been generally agreed upon, with a condition that we would look at the potential scaling down of the school street extension, but the massing seems to be defined for, or at least
Yeah.
moving towards option C or 3. Is that
See
right?
with a strong preference to scaling down of the dog leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you click on page 20 there that you're about to click on.
And
Yeah, option 3 preferred. I think that seems like a pretty
concrete.
Yeah, like I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Oh, sorry, we're not supposed to call it this. We're supposed to call it the action line. The action line.
And Vladimir, you had your hand up. Did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to just quickly chime in and say that I think as a nonprofit that's sponsoring this project, I think there are a number of considerations that we look at in terms of trying to make this project feasible, and it really starts with the overall design and the opportunities that are presented from that, on seeing what you can ultimately be able to afford on the other end. So when you guys are kind of evaluating some of these projects and the trade-offs with the economic implications, can you guys kind of speak to what the thought process is kind of looked upon with your evaluation criteria and so forth?
Our criteria is aesthetic. Other people in the city and other people in this process are looking at it from the economic standpoint, but we are here to talk about how it looks like within the overall city of Somerville.
Okay, and then the only other question that I have is so we'll come back with the one design in the meeting. Could there be potential other meetings that may follow from that next meeting? Just trying to understand the process and timeline when I report back to the leadership team.
Yep. Typically, we see projects in 2. At times, we've gone to 3 meetings. 2 is our typical, but there is no guarantee within the zoning itself, and we're not. There is no guarantee. I think, generally speaking, if we hit the 3rd meeting and we're not satisfied at it, we'll vote no and just move it on to the next round. to planning or ZBA.
Thank you.
Right. And so is the commission, does it sound good to vote on massing options, preferred massing option today, and then table the other three for the next meeting? Is that what we're hearing?
So if we vote yes for the massing, are we accepting the total mass of the dog leg? I guess would be my question.
Yeah, because that would have been part of the additional design guidance that we would vote on. I mean, we could also vote on just massing options and additional design guidance, with the additional design guidance including scaling down of that school street dogleg, detailing and fenestration of that building with the same level of detailing as the main body, giving the residential building entrance a bit of a differentiation in character, um, articulating details between the two ground floor or between the ground floor of the buildings per design guidelines, softening and reducing the apparent mass of the upper stories, and then providing more details on materiality and planting along streetscape. So those are what I logged as the um, additional design guidelines. So we can do those, just those two.
That sounds right to me, I think.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
I guess
You all came up
So
with
I
it.
think those are the things we've asked the applicant team to address when they come back.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
not sure we need to vote on them at this time. I
I guess I'm back and forth between accepting the massing or just asking to come back, because it feels like accepting the
Right.
massing is codifying the full volume of the dog leg, which I'm not quite there yet
Yeah,
for.
I think we could provide the guidance that we're all on board with massing concept 3. And that could be the basis of the single option that you come back with. You've heard the comments about the dog leg.
Yes. All right. So it sounds like we are choosing not to specifically vote on any of the
Yeah, so we're not approving
options.
massing.
Yeah, I wanted to
Right.
just remind everybody that we're showing you the massing options for the YMCA building because they kind of go together, but really the only building that massing options apply for is the residential building because it's 7 stories. There's no massing option review technically for the Y building, which includes the dog leg. Just we're showing it all to you because it kind of all fits together, but just saying you don't have to vote on the Y building or the dog leg piece at all for massing.
Gotcha.
That is a good distinction. Thanks, Adam.
I will note too that planning has been, again, very assertive about keeping these two buildings that are concurrent next to each other separate in the past, and this feels like a real 180 from planning. I appreciate this version of it because it's a pain in the ass to pretend like it's not going together. But it does jump out as a variation to the standard process from planning in the past, that I could imagine the teams that have gone through in the past and felt very restricted are going to watch this presentation and be pretty annoyed by. So I'll just register that in the past.
I mean, there are not a lot of nonprofit community centers of this scale being built in the city of Somerville, unfortunately. It's kind
Understood,
of an
but there are buildings that are longer that are being that the zoning is looked at because of its length, and that are being treated differently, and the fact that it's a nonprofit really shouldn't matter how it's being reviewed by the city of Somerville.
So just to circle back and make sure that we're closing this loop, do we want to hold off on voting on the massing, even with the understanding that it is only applied to just the residential building? And
If the
just group
massing
them all.
if the massing piece only really relates to the residential, I think I'm comfortable voting on that.
I think we should just take I don't think it makes a difference. I think we just take the votes at the next meeting.
Okay. Either way. I think we're
All right.
generally supportive of the massing. Just okay.
Yes.
You guys have heard us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It sounds like we will table all of the voting for the next meeting for when you all come back. Do we have to vote on that?
I think it's a motion to continue.
Motion to continue. Roll call vote. Andrew Arba.
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich.
Yes.
Tim Tallon.
Yes.
Great. That motion passes. We will see you all in the future. Thank you.
Do you know when the future would be? We're talking the 9th, the 23rd, I guess. Lewis, what do you think?
Not the 9th, Adam.
We're here all
file
month.
things. We would have to file.
You're really stacking our 23rd as well. So
I have to be there anyway, apparently. But I'm just saying, if we have to file by the 16th, is that even enough time?
The city is going to provide mulled wine on the 23rd.
Yeah. Can we provisionally put us on the for the 23rd, and then the design team on the other side? Once we've had a chance to circle back on the other side of the Thanksgiving, we will either hold that or request to move it.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I can just check. I can just keep checking the email and see what Adam sends me, and whatever you send me, I'll put on the
perfect. Thank you,
agenda for
Lexi.
the next available one.
But,
All right,
but
so just put
we
us
want to
on
give
the
the
agenda
appropriate care to this. So, it's likely you'll see us in January, but let's hold December.
Sounds like a plan. Great. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone. And thank you for bearing with us for this very long meeting right before the holiday break.
Right back at you.
Right.
Yes, and thank you to our commission for staying on as well. And with that, I would love to take a motion to adjourn.
So motioned.
Thank you, Andrew. Second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Martin. Roll call vote. Andrew Arpa.
Yes.
Martin Pavlinich.
Yes.
And Tim Tallon. Tim is
He already
going
adjourned.
Yes.
Tim dropped mic.
Like Tim is going to abstain. He wants to keep this going. But all right. So with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 9:42 p.m. Thanks and happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Bye.
Happy
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lexi.